Morning, 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 all. We just got to see. Neil Francois, morning, sir. Always present. Ruckman Gang, good morning, Ruckman. Leon Graves, morning, sir. Arlene Lewis, morning, Arlene. Lennox Ramdani, greetings to you, sir. Macaroni Tony, morning to you. Ruth Trude, morning. Margaret Thomas, morning. Deborah Duranti, Pauline Buckmeyer, morning, guys. Christian Damani, morning to you. Season's greetings as well. Proud to be Trini. Morning, Ruben Rogers. Morning, Sue Marissa Guevara Diaz. Morning, Marissa. I did. Mindful Consumer. Morning, Leon Joseph Ntoku. Marilyn McAllister. Morning, Carol Boyce John. Morning, Emerson Brown. Morning to you. Morning, Roxanne. Now, Roxanne, you're late. You're on time. John Cato. Morning, Angela Gatti. Morning to you, Glenn Richardson, Ria, Ed. Thank you so much, Roxanne. Deborah Duranti, Cheryl Mitchell, Jennifer Ashby, Okoli, morning. Jennifer Nicholas, morning. Winston Jones, morning to you, sir. Leon says they're having lovely weather in Toko today. I can only imagine. Today feels like a Toko Beach day. We have on Facebook, Jonathan Carr, morning. Morning, Diane. Thank you so much. Demetri McEwen, morning. Donna Seeley, morning to you. Jenny Joseph, Jennifer Dorset, morning, guys. Sharon Williams, Judy Benjamin, morning. Andel George. Judy says she missed you so much for Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well, Judy. We're still in the season until the 6th of January. Celestine Allen, morning. Celestine. Ian Michael Glowden, morning, sir. Donna Seeley, Clyde McKenzie, Pamela O'Connor, morning. Yvette Stewart, morning. Jenny Joseph, Teleka Boncho, morning to you. Will Durant. Winston says, morning to all from Caracas. Winston is in Caracas. Let's see what we have here. Natalie F. Renwick Roberts. Jennifer Ferron from Florida. Karen Spooner. Well, it was my birthday, Jennifer, on Boxing Day. Yeah. So thank you to all of you guys who would have extended birthday greetings on the Facebook page. I know one of the admin would have put it out, so I am grateful to you guys for that. I thank you all so much. It was greatly appreciated. Let me see here. I'm trying to find that post that I saved. I think it might be saved on the debunking thing. Let me see if I get this here. Yes, no. So much has happened over the last few days while I was out of the country on a much needed break. Let me see if I get this here. Quite a few things took place. So the last live that I did, I think it was back on the 19th of December. I would have touched on the response of Philip Edward Alexander to the outpouring of grief by Camille Robinson Regis. So let me get this here. Just where is this thing? Just you'll give me 1 sec. Let me find this thing here. Right. Where is it? Where is it? Right. Just no. Yeah. Is it this way? No. All right, let me see if I get this here. I'm certain I saved this thing and I don't know why I'm not finding it. So, 1 sec. Right, so I was mentioning, let me see, Slick Money, Grip Morning. Thank you, Leon. Judy Bowen, Ruth Frontin, Donna Seeley, Pamela O'Connor. Good morning to His Excellency, President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Mauricia Keegan. Right. Right. Yeah, so I would have played for you all the response of Philip Alexander, who is hoping to be part of any, well, whatever alliance or accommodation the UNC is able to put together for the 2025 general election that is due shortly. In fact, the government would be proceeding on a caucus, some sort of caucus in Tobago over the next few days with respect to the issue of the proroguing of the parliament and so on. The next parliamentary term, or this parliamentary term, comes to an end sometime in August, and then thereafter we will see if we will have the start of a new term or if the Prime Minister is going to call the general election thereafter, if he will ask Parliament to, the President to prorogue Parliament to make way for the general election. But in any event, within the next 12 months, a general election will be held in Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister has already indicated that he has written to CARICOM, the CARICOM Secretariat, requesting observers. Of course, this has not met with the approval of the UNC, its leadership, and others. You've had even Philip Alexander again questioning that. You've had Watson Duke expressing concerns about that because they want observers from abroad. They want observers from the white man country now. The same people always talking about colonial this and colonial that, but I think Philip Alexander is saying that they want observers from the Jimmy Carter Center and all kind of nonsense and all that. So they're already casting aspersions on CARICOM. Prasad Bisesa has also done so, and she seems to forget that if she becomes Prime Minister next year, you have to deal with these very same people, the leaders of these very same CARICOM countries that you are now expressing concerns about, and the integrity of the persons that CARICOM would send to serve as observers, right? And anyway, that's some people say that she's supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. But in response to Philip Alexander's nastiness, which I'm sure some of you would remember, he would have said some pretty dirty things about Camille Robinson Regis. Let's see, do I still have this here? Did I play it directly from his Facebook page? Since he don't care. He says things, the most derogatory things, and the unfortunate thing about it is that he thinks that is good, right? Because he tries to follow Trump style of politics, because Trump is say what you want, call people whatever it is you want, and he was able to secure millions of votes based on that type of politics. And Alexander seems to think that could work here. Albeit I'm surprised when some of the people that I've seen come out publicly to support and endorse his nonsense. I saw one former, well, has been soca artist, parang soca artist, who used to go by the name Fireball. He had a couple hits once upon a time, and he came out to support Alexander, right? Talking about, Alexander have his truth, and then you have the other truth, and all truth. All truth is truth. And rock so with that ship talk, yes. Anyway.
Comments or change Rowley and put Penelope. Change.
That's not this now. Let's see if I get this here. Give me 1 sec. I don't even know if I should replay that nonsense. Yeah. And he only happy to post up these endorsements on his Facebook page, right?
That she is a proper bullshit artist. That she didn't hold her belly and ball for Granny, who totally slipped 2 nights ago. She didn't hold her belly and ball for the 4 divers who died in the pipe. She didn't hold her belly and ball for none of the other 21 people who burned to death. She in the cabinet. They are the government. They could fix all of this. She didn't hold her belly and ball for Ezekiel, Faith, and Caden, 3 little children who burned to death in Roanoke in Maraval in July 2020.
Let's see if I get this. I know he wasn't so proud of it afterwards because it was muted. Anyway, I don't need to replay because I'm sure many of you would have heard the nastiness that he would have said about Camille Robinson Regis, right? And all of them had to burn and all of that. But what was of concern to me is the response of the leader of the opposition when the media asked her for comment. In light of the fact that made these prior to Mr. Alexander's statements, the UNC would have met with him as political leader of PEP along with other leaders of other parties and other organizations in an attempt to fashion or to hammer out some kind of arrangement for the 2025 elections. Because see, that's what everybody doing right now, right? Let me come together, let me form something just for the purpose of fighting the elections. Not trying to see if it is different personalities could gel, to see if it is that our ideas and strategies for governing the country, if it meshes. No. Let's just come together for the sole purpose of mounting some sort of facade that people can rally around and get us into government. And then once we do that, we'll figure out the rest afterwards. As if we didn't see what happened between 2010 to 2015, how that worked out. It didn't take long for the MSG to bust out, right? When they realized water more than flour. In fact, David Abdullah, who was in the Senate, would have been one of the first to leave, indicating that despite his best efforts, because he was supposed to be one of the many consciences of the partnership. And he realized, hey, that can't work. That can't work. He's the same David Abdullah who is on record as having told Prasad Bisesa, some of these special purpose companies that have been put into place, you don't really need some of them things, certain positions you could get rid of. And she said, it makes sense, David. This is what Abdullah is on public record as having said. That while that may make sense, we need to keep these positions because we have to create jobs for the boys. David Abdullah is on record as having said Kamla Prasad Bisesa told him that. When he tried to rationalize and tell her, look, you need to cut down the size of certain government positions and so on. You're making sense, but we need these to reward certain people for the efforts that they would have put out in getting us into office. So it really wasn't about managing the country's money. It wasn't about managing the treasury. First and foremost, her priority, based on what David Abdullah is on record as having said, is that you need these positions to create jobs for the boys. His words. The same David Abdullah who told us that he would have had a conversation with a former People's Partnership Minister of Finance, who told him that they estimate that Trinidad and Tobago loses about $7.5 billion a year in revenue through tax evasion. And when Abdullah asked this former minister, so why aren't you all doing anything about it if you are aware? And the minister said, Ricardo, nothing, because it's our people doing it. The biggest culprits is our people. Again, David Abdullah is on record as having said that. And I would have reminded him of that. And the last outing that he and I had, I think it was with respect to the budget. Was it last year? Yeah. When I was asked to sit in an I-95 for the budget review session that they had. And I reminded Mr. Abdullah that. And he again repeated it. Right? So just making that point. But anyway. So the leader or the misleader of the opposition was questioned by the media in an article entitled Kamla Not Endorsing Phillips' Comments. This is 10 days ago, a story by one Jesse Ramdale in The Guardian. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisesa is not supporting recent comments made by Progressive Empowerment Party leader Philip Alexander about the grief displayed by the PNM's members following the deaths of Lisa Morris Julian and 2 of her children in a fire and at their home in Arima on Monday. It still sounds feels so surreal to see something like that. Anyway, it's unfortunate. Following the tragedy, Alexander took to social media to attack Aruka Maloney MP Camille Robinson Regis for her public show of anguish at the scene. And after signing the condolence book for Maurice Julian at the Red House Rotunda yesterday, Prasad Bisesa said she did not back Alexander's comments. Almost the entire opposition bench is here today in solidarity, in public duty, as we mourn the passing of our colleague. So I will not endorse those statements. But here's the kicker, right? If they have to burn, they will burn on election day, but I apologize for that. However, she said she did not think Alexander's comments would affect her party's alliance with the PEP for the general election. I didn't hear it myself, and I would want to hear it before I make any decision. But I don't think that will affect our plans going forward. We have to win this election, and we need every hand on deck. We need every person on deck, except Gary Griffith and the NTA, and except Michaela Pandey and the Patriotic Front. I added that piece. And we have to remove this wicked, incompetent government, right? She didn't hear it. But yet still, you're not distancing yourself. But here's where she says, if they have to burn, they will burn on election day. But I apologize for that. What are you apologizing for? Because you know such a statement was insensitive. But the fact that that came into her head and she felt it appropriate to still say it in light of the terrible thing that had happened, where one of her colleagues and two of her children lost their lives in a fire. A family in grief, a party in grief, to some extent a nation in grief as well. And she felt it necessary to make the statement, if they have to burn, they will burn on election day. How insensitive could you be? But you know what? The fully done supporters of that party will endorse that nonsense and say that she is so loving and kind and she cares about people. If Dr. Rowley, had it been the other way around and Dr. Rowley had said something like that, they would have raked him over the coals. And rightly so, if he had said something like that. But that was very insensitive and nasty on the part of the leader of the opposition who wants to be the prime minister of this country to make a statement. If they have to burn, they will burn on election day. That is the worst metaphor you could have ever come up with. Insensitive. And then you apologize on the spot for it. So I'm going to say it anyway, and then I will apologize. But I just want it on record that I said that, because you found what that was cheeky and smart to say, with no care or regard for the people who are mourning and grieving over the loss of not one, not two, but three people, which includes a 6-year-old boy, an innocent boy who has nothing to do with the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, who probably had a bright and promising future, but that was cut short because of this most unfortunate incident. And this woman who they love to tell you, so love people, and she's so caring, and she's a mother and a grandmother, would say something so low and crass and heartless. But did the media rake over the coals for that? What about all the men and women of letters who always scrutinize everything that Dr. Rowley says and have a million things to say? Oh, he's a raging bull, and he heartless, and he don't like people, and he this and he that. But I could tell you Dr. Rowley would never have said something like that. Never would he have said something like that. Especially in those circumstances. You now come from signing the condolence book. Just sign the condolence book and find yourself in front of the media and found it appropriate to say something like that. If they have to burn, they will burn on election day. Right. And we're supposed to support somebody like that. Anyway, it's too early for me to engage the trolls on YouTube, so I'm not going to go there. Right? Not yet. Anyway. Not going to go there yet. But anyway, just to make that point and to reinforce. So I saw the political leader of the All People's Party had an event. Forgive me, I have no idea what the event was about. I wasn't following it. But, okay, before I go there. So I saw as well, Gary Aboud, the owner of Moda Life, would have made a post in which he was critical of Philip Alexander. In particular, Philip Alexander's constant attack of the so-called 1%, often referring to them as the contract mafia, right? And I guess Gary had enough of that, and he decided to respond. And because Prasad Bisesa seemingly endorses these things said by Philip, Gary decided that he is going to mount he's calling on anybody and he's willing to meet with anybody and join with anybody to get rid of the UNC. That didn't sit well with the supporters of that party, unfortunately. And yeah, so they calling for a boycott of Moda Life. It's interesting though that when Philip Alexander responded, being the narcissist that he is, he expected, oh, I know everybody waiting to hear my response and all of that and whatnot and thing. I didn't know my mouth, and he did a response. The video that Gary Abu did has so far gathered over 1 million views. Philip Alexander has done 2 responses, 2 replies to Gary Abu, and could barely muster 7,000 views on those videos. Always boasting when Gary Griffith put up a post, if he get 1 like and 1 share, and how many views he gets and how many likes he gets. But you decided to respond to Gary Aboud, and Gary Aboud got over 1 million views largely in part because of the attention that Alexander shown on it, right? And a lot of those persons would have been UNC supporters who look into Fabakana because they're vexed. But months ago, when Gary Aboud was attacking the PNM, they had no problem with Gary, and it's not now. When the Diego Martin interchange was under construction, and the Chinese contractors put up a building, a prefab building, which is customary for what they do when they have contracts such as these. When the building was so well done that it looked like a permanent structure, right? It's no longer there. If you go on Charlotte Street, I think the work that they're doing on the hospital central block, Port of Spain, you'll see across the road, they have up a similar building that if you don't know, you would think it's a permanent structure. It is so well done. But the thing is, they had this thing set up somewhere in West Park there, just in the vicinity of the interchange. And Mr. Aboud went and he did a live claiming that the government had given the land to the Chinese, as evidenced by this majestic looking building that the Chinese had set up, prefab building, right? Easy to dismount. As I said, it's no longer there. And he did a live and he talked about how they sell the pitch lake to the Chinese, and he put up an article. On the clip, he put up an article from 2013 talking about where the People's Partnership government had engaged in some arrangement with the Chinese for a 3-year contract to sell asphalt to the Chinese and so on and whatnot for the paving of the airport and the runway in China and certain things like that. Now, you're doing a live to accuse the PNM of selling the pitch lake to the Chinese, but put up an article from 2013 speaking to a transaction between the People's Partnership government and the Chinese, right? That's to tell you how disingenuous and dishonest they are. Because all over, I keep hearing them saying, oh, they sell the pitch lake and they lease the pitch lake to the Chinese. But you can't find a single article, nowhere, no news story, anywhere that speaks to that. But they keep parroting that and making that claim. The supporters are the fully dons. Keep saying that. And when you challenge them and ask them, so where can I find evidence of that? Where can I find information on that? They can't tell you. You know why? Because they're just running on propaganda and old talk. They hear somebody say that, and they hear a few people say that, so therefore it must be true. And he did that same thing. The same Gary Aboud did that same thing. Made all kinds of spurious claims about the government and the Chinese and whatnot, and what they sell and what they didn't sell. Where is the building today that he did a live and told you, hey, here, look, you see they give away the land to the Chinese and the Chinese put up this building. Where is it today? Nowhere to be found. Project finished, building dismantled, next. They had no problems when he was doing things like that. In fact, just a couple months ago, he did another live chastising the government and so on, criticizing the government. They had no problem with that. They were happy. They applaud that. Yeah. The minute he decided to speak against the Maharani, the queen, the goddess, yeah, he crossed the line. And we're not having that. All of a sudden, he's a dirty 1% and he's a old dirty Syrian and PNM this and PNM that. You see? But when it is he was bad talking, the PNM people weren't doing that. I don't recall seeing any PNM person or persons calling to boycott Moda Life because Gary Aboud bad talking the government and bad talking the party and saying all kind of things. PNM people wasn't doing that. And I said, okay, it's a free country. If you want to let him say what you want to say, we know the truth. We are not time with you. But the minute tables turned and he bad talk the UNC and he bad talk the leader, all of a sudden boycott. Yeah, and we ain't getting you money and all of that. That's the show the difference in mindset between the supporters of the UNC and the supporters of the PNM. What if I duck back? We are accustomed to that kind of foolishness. So say what you want. They vex. But guess what? It hasn't hurt his business. In fact, it seems he has gotten more business because Boxing Day was very good for him. Especially, I read a newspaper article which spoke about Moda Life on Frederick Street. Large crowds of persons turn out for after Christmas sale. People come to buy. So the more they call for boycott is the more people, as if it is the only people in this country who could buy stuff is the UNC supporters. They are the only ones that have money apparently, and everybody else suffering. But your leader said the whole country suffering. She not suffering. Really? So but I thought all this suffering and only have no money, and you can't buy food, and you can't buy a whole chicken, you could only buy chicken foot and all kind of that. And yet still you all have money to be able to cripple a business. Well, those of us who don't support the fully dance, they showed you all your calls for boycott. All you could boycott if all you want, but his business still making money. So contrary to what all you like to say about OPNM, people always begging and they always looking for handout and they have no money and they this and they that. Yes, yeah. Pick a struggle. Who really struggling? PNM struggling or all struggling? Who really struggling? I was complaining, I was suffering, I can't do this, and price are this high, and the price are that high. And then when it is PNM, people doing it all your vex. No stupidness. I just to make the point, right? That Alexander continues to double down and triple down. But there was one, let me get this here. You see, he figured he's the best thing since sliced bread, and nobody like him, right? He could talk, all he could talk. Let me touch on something here. Where is it? The liar that he is. No, it's not that. It's not that. All right, I'm going to say this. No? It's just so much. Pile up.
We're supposed to feel pride. We're supposed to feel proud of our country. When we see the red, white, and black, we're supposed to feel a quickening in our heart rate. That's our country, especially if we're out of the country. That's what symbolism means. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make us feel proud. We're from somewhere. We're united in that. We belong to that. Trinidad and Tobago, they have nothing like that. And if you say that you do, it is fake, it is false, and you're lying. And I have been watching my country be degraded by politicians and businessmen and lawyers and accountants and the rest that make up the contract mafia who have realized that Trinidad and Tobago had a financial value and they wanted it.
That's not what I wanted to play. It's not that fun.
All of us get it and love.
Where is it? Where is it? Give me 1 second here, folks. There's so many things I wanted to play from him, right? I'm not going to give him too much airtime. No, where is it? Where is it? All right, I'm not right.
Be honest. PNM supporters. Be honest. PNM supporters. Be honest. When your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your child, and you come back to this country, just line up at immigration for hours. Be honest. PNM supporters, you are the reason the country is a shit because you're not being honest. Yesterday in Barbados, 54 planes land in one day. 54. We can't even consider that as a number. One plane in Trinidad and immigration jam up for 2 hours. PNM supporters, your country is a shit because your government runs it like shit and you have to be honest. The country is broken because the PNM and their 1% financiers looting everything. That's why Rowley could give himself a 47% increase and back pay. And you can't get 4%. Some of y'all waiting on back pay 15 years now. They fire a bunch of TSTT employees and never pay them. They fire the carry workers and never get them the land. This PNM government is a crime against humanity. And the PNM supporters are the abhorrent.
It's nonsense like that is why, and dotish talk like that is why that couple folks decided to attack that poor old man in the Tunapuna market for wearing a P&M jersey. This is where we have reached, where you can't wear a jersey to support your party because some people have an issue with that. Right? I see people all over the place wearing the UNC jersey. Oh, no big deal. You want the votes and know that's who you support. P&M have that right too. Right? But because this poor old man decided he's supporting the P&M and he wants to wear his jersey, you have people threatening him because of foolishness like that. Foolishness like that, that kind of dotish talk. Apparently, this man hasn't traveled for the year because, as you all know, I traveled about, I think, 6 times for this year. And on no occasion, contrary to what he just said there, on none of the occasions when I returned to the country, did I experience what he just said there, having to wait hours, what one plane coming and he had to wait hours. In fact, when I came back a couple of days ago, right, the plane was full from New York, full. But we had over 200 and something persons came in on that flight. When I got to the airport, there were 5 immigration officers. 2 were attending to the line for locals and 3 attending to the line for the foreigners, right? The non-nationals, because they require a little greater level of scrutiny because you're not going to reject a trainee from coming in, come back home. It's simple to put through, but with the foreigners, a little more interrogation and so on to find out what's the purpose of their visit and how long they're going to stay. So they had 3 immigration officers for them, 2 for the locals. It did not take me long. And to be honest with you, I didn't even spend 15 minutes in the line, right? There were a few people ahead of me. But as is the norm, you have some people, it's just naturally ingrained in them to make a issue about everything and complain. So there was one woman, I don't know. Well, she's a trainee. I don't know if she just went for the trip or if she lives abroad and she maintains 2 passports and she come back. But she decided to make a fuss. There was an immigration officer that came in. I don't know if he was a supervisor. So he realized the situation that there were a few people in the line and they appeared to have a shortage of immigration officers given the time of night because it was after 10 in the night or so, right? After 9, after 10 minutes to 10, something thereabout. So I don't know if it is officers decided they ain't working at night who don't want overtime as the case may be. So he comes and he says, well, take out your passports and put your immigration document, the form that is had to fill out, put it on the biodata page and have your passport out. So like Miss Lady, she vexed because she wanted him to go into one of the cages, one of the stores and attend to people because she upset because there's 2 immigration officers that it have. Again, she was in front of me, about 2 or 3 people in front of me. And she, as I said, you didn't have to wait long because the 2 officers who were attending, they were moving extremely fast. I didn't even spend a minute by the office. I gave her my document. She went up on the system, do what she had to do, stamp, give me back my passport with my piece of the form, and I was on my way. So the line was moving. There was no long thing. But as I said, you just have some people who just naturally cantankerous and like to make an issue. So she decides to open up her mouth and saying, like, so much people here and only 2 people and whatnot. So the guy is telling her, ma'am, I hear what you're saying, but we short staff as the case may be and whatnot and stuff. And we try to accommodate everybody. So please keep it down, the noise and whatnot. And she decided to respond. I just saying and whatnot. I said a noise. Till the other immigration officer had to poke out her head. So she had to stop what she was doing, right? Processing persons who were in wheelchairs and so on, to intervene to tell the woman, ma'am, all of us under stress, all of us under pressure, everybody here, we understand the situation, but this is what we're working with now, and we're just asking you to bear with us, right? To be a little bit patient with us because, yeah, we all under the same situation. Right? And she continues to go on till other passengers in the line have to tell her, relax yourself now, it's not worth it. The line moving, just relax. You just know you'll get out quick. All this set of thing because you want to make a setup for so what they pull you out and then next thing you get detained unnecessarily for creating a ruckus and you think relax yourself, oh gosh. And the line was moving. So when I hear this clown talking about how one plane come in and you're waiting in the airport for hours, you're nonsense. The 6 times that I have traveled for this, I have never experienced that. As I said, this is probably the longest wait. Less than 15 minutes, I was out of the airport. But he wouldn't talk about the fact when you go to Miami and you have 10 plus flights coming in at the same time, thousands of passengers, right? And everybody had to converge in this one big area. All who come in on American Airlines, and that is the gate for American Airlines, and maybe 2 or 3 other airlines. and you stand up in the Miami airport and for 1.5, 2 hours, and you have 5 or 6 Customs and Border Patrol officers who take in their sweet time. They couldn't care how long the line is. You just come, okay, they're asking your questions and whatnot because they're doing their job. And if they find that your answers ain't sung too kosher, they tell you, please, all right, just stand on the side here. Someone will come to you shortly. And then you see they put this orange paper in your passport, and another Customs and Border Patrol officer appear from nowhere, and they tell you, come with me, and they take your passport and they carry you in the back room to have a seat so that they could check you out to make sure everything is above board. But they don't care. Sometimes they have 30-something, 40-something windows and 5 or 6 Customs and Border Patrol officers. They're keeping it tight. And the line could be how long, and it can have how many hundreds of people. They don't care. They're bringing on no extra people. And if it is that the flight's coming at that time when a shift change has to take place, same thing. Hold on right there. We change in shift. And if this shift change take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so be it. And nobody dares complain because nobody don't want to get, so you want to be disruptive? All right. You're going on hop on a plane and go back home. So everybody conform, and they're just there doing that thing. They're watching, they're observing, they're probably cussing in their mind, but they will not articulate it out loud. Because when they're in Uncle Sam country, they behave in themselves because I just want to get through there. I just need to get through there. I don't want to cause on any unnecessary attention to myself. And if you see them when they go up afterwards, you don't mind in the line for 1.5, 2 hours, they're smiling. yeah. All kind of jokes, just so that they could make it through, get a passport stamp, and they could proceed. They had to behave. But he wouldn't talk about that. Oh, in every other country, it's so thing. Nonsense. As someone who has gone through several international airports and have experienced that, the 54 flights that he's talking about in Barbados there, you feel the people who had to enjoy those lines. I've seen videos and pictures. People were upset and grumbling because the airport could not accommodate that volume of persons. Persons had to be waiting, and a lot of them were people who in transit, so they come through, and if they're going on to some other country, as the case may be, people who were coming off of a cruise and they're now looking to board their plane to head back to wherever it is that they came from. They came for a Caribbean cruise that docking in or originated in Barbados, as the case may be, and they were heading back out. Long lines, people were upset. But he and people like him continue to want to paint Trinidad and Tobago as the worst thing under the PNM. That everything in the country wrong, everything in the country bad. And they have these solutions for it. Imagine yesterday you had Joshua Regrello breaking setting, because he didn't break, because this is the first time it happened, setting a Guinness World Record. Something positive that would put Trinidad and Tobago on the international map, right? You would think that is something great and something wonderful that people would applaud. But when you read the several posts that were put out by the various media houses and so on social media, and you go in the comments, you have some people in this country who they could sour a lime, they could sour lemon. They will find the best thing and have an issue with it. These are people who are unhappy. Oh, what are record going to do for the country? That bringing down the price of food. That going to bring down the crime rate. What we supposed to be rejoicing? What we supposed to be congratulating him for? What's the big deal about that? You have citizens of this country who probably have never accomplished anything of worth in their whole life and figure everybody should be the same because, as they say, misery loves company. Something like that. I mean, oh gosh, all the negativity that we see, and let me celebrate the good things now. The young man played for 31 hours. That is no easy feat. You know, people, how many of us in Trinidad could do something like that? He was entitled to a 5-minute break for each consecutive hour that he played, and I understand he didn't take too many breaks. And then he had the support of his colleagues and so on in the entertainment industry who came to cheer him on and so on to make sure that he broke that record, not just for his own benefit, but for Trinidad and Tobago to be on the international scene. So we have yet another record attributed to Trinidad and Tobago in the Guinness Book of World Records. We have others like Brian Lara, who's in there for the most test runs. And then we have my very good friend, Charles Brunner, who is a Hungarian by birth, but he has made Trinidad and Tobago his home for the last 19 years. He's married to a Trinidadian, and he holds the Guinness World Record for playing the piano the longest, right? I think 100 and something hours. In fact, Charles has about 4 records in the Guinness Book of Records, 2 of which he would have accomplished in Trinidad and which he attributed to Trinidad, not his land of birth, Hungary, Trinidad, right? So these are the things that we should be celebrating, but no, that can't bring down the price of food and what they're doing for we, and we still suffering and all of that. Well, okay, well, you go and sulk in a corner. Those of us who rally around the guy and congratulated him for the work that he did because he put out the effort. I think it's 2 records he broke when he broke the 24-hour, when he made the 24-hour mark, and then he went on to the 31 hours and so on, right? So, congratulations to him. But all these sourpusses out there, who all they want to talk about is the state of crime. And I'm sorry to have some of them on the live here, right? On Facebook, not Facebook, YouTube. All they want to talk about, we talk about the state of crime in the country now, and we talk about how much murders, and we talk about the cost of living. Look at what's happening in the US. Donald Trump was promising to bring down the cost of living, because apparently, if you listen to some of them, it's only in Trinidad and Tobago the cost of living high. If it is, we import most of what we consume, food-wise. Hence the reason the food import bill went from $5 billion to $7 billion. If you're importing it from the country where it is the price high, you expect when it reaches here, the price will drop? That's how it works. We're not making it here. It's not being manufactured here. We have an appetite for everything foreign. So if we're importing food stuff from abroad, and it's expensive abroad, and we're importing from places like the United States, and the citizens of the US complaining about the cost of living so high and the price of food so high, when we import it and it come here, the price is supposed to drop. But blame the government for that. You know why? Because it's freight cost. That's the government fault. And when they come on the port and it's still long on the port and all of that, that's the government fault too. Has nothing to do with the fact that the price was already high from where it is being purchased. And when it comes here, you still have to have markup and so on. But I am not aware the government have a grocery. I am not aware that Keith Rowley own any grocery. I am not aware that Keith Rowley can pick up the phone and tell the owners of supermarkets and so on what price to charge for their products. Government can't do that. Because when a man decides that he wants to go into business, he's doing so for profit. And if in a free market economy, the government could tell a man, you could only charge this amount. Nothing more than that. Well, he would simply say, well, it's making sense. I went into business to make profit, and if the government wants to regulate the amount of profits I could make, well, then I come out of business. And these simple things, they wouldn't tell the people. You know why? Because people like Kamla Prasad-Bissessar will tell them much of the cost of living so high, and this government too wicked, and they don't care about poor people, and they suffering poor people, and put me back in office. And what she will do, she will remove VAT on 7,000 food items. What's the 7,000 food items? They can't tell you. Because they could fully dance. How they do that? Here's what they're telling you. If we have 10 different brands of tuna fish, right, so that is 10 food items. Same one tuna fish is just one food item, but it had 10, 15 different brands. So we add that and we say, right, that is 15. And we have 30 different brands of cereal. Never mind, it's same cereal, cornflakes, but we're checking that as 30 food items because we remove that on all 30 brands. And that is how they could fool people. But every time you ask the fully done, what's the 7,000 food items? You ever went to the grocery and purchase 7,000 food items? No. Probably over the course of your life since you're working and buying groceries, you never even buy 7,000 food items. But taking that chain up. And yet still, the fact is that when that was done, when she was prime minister, within a matter of months, any benefits that the population would have gained from that was eroded. I have read that article on numerous occasions. Go and look at it. Just type up VAT on food flops, Guardian article, and you will read it. Where it is the head of the Supermarkets Association would have been saying that, in fact, the prices have now gone higher than what it was before they removed the VAT. Because you had price gouging taking place, so it didn't benefit the citizens. But that's what they would tell you. Put us back in office, and this wicked Rowley put back VAT on 7,000 food items. I have lost count of how many times I've seen the fully done talking that stupidness. Oh, Rowley put back VAT on 7,000 food items and Kamala take out and things was better. You all ever heard of inflation? Food prices was lower under Kamala. Yeah, well, guess what? Food prices was lower under Eric Williams too. So what? We should call for the days of Eric Williams to come back, because the price of food was lower under Eric Williams than it was under Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. In fact, the price of food was lower under Patrick Manning in his first term as Prime Minister, 91 to 95, than it was under Kamla Prasad-Bissessar between 2010 to 2015. So should we go back to those days? Yeah, let me go back to 1956 prices now. Because apparently, prices will only go up under the PNM. When you listen to their dotish logic. So put her back, and what she will do, the same thing Trump promising. And now admitting, well, you know, that's a tall order, you know. Really? You didn't know that before the election when you were promising it? Well, promise it and yeah, put them back in office and the cost of living going to go down. How? They can't tell you. Baby grant, 500 a month to make child. We saw what happens when it is that you try to buy votes and buy the loyalty of the population. Kizelle Jackson, All People's Party political leader, had some event last week at Center of Excellence. I understand giving away stuff. All kind of thing. She has been promising over the last few months some senior citizen grant of $1,000. I don't know what is the qualifying criteria for that. But that is what they try to do. Buy votes. Buy the population. Yeah, you see what Kizelle doing? Kizelle giving people this and she giving people that. And Rowley and the PNM, they're too wicked and they only want to take away from people and then gain you nothing. Really? Really? Look how that turned out. Look how that turned out. And when people didn't get what she promised, because she figures that it's that easy. Populist strategies, populist policies. Just give to the poor. Just get them thing. And they will vote for you and they will be loyal to you. Just get them thing. And when you don't have the money to do it, or when it is that they didn't get as much as they wanted, and they turn on you, what's the end result? Well, she got it. And boy, oh boy, she got a rude awakening. But you see, Dr. Oli and them don't need to burn. Well, sorry, let me take that away. They don't need to actually participate in the nonsense to understand what the outcomes will be. So let me just get this here. Just play a little bit of this.
Oh, they have 6 children. They only get one bite. Look at them costly ass of the fucking state.
Sorry about that.
I tell you to open your leg and take so much of man and make all them children. Be responsible. Or you're wicked to your children. Be responsible. You want to have a set of blasted children. And you have no way of minding them. But expect me, when the children father's not paying maintenance for them, expect me to mind all 6 children when you have other members there who need as well. How can I give you 6 bicycles for 6 children when I have other people in the audience waiting and hoping they could get one? Well, that's the level of wickedness I have to deal with. And if you are wicked to yourself and wicked to each other, I never tell you open your leg and take man and make all those children. I never tell you to do that. I, Kizelle Jackson, never tell you to do that.
That is the political leader of the All People's Party. Right? See? I never tell you to go and open your leg and make a set of children that you can't mind. And how can I give, yes, you have 6 children, and how can I give you a bicycle for each one of them when you have other people who are also in need? You not realize that, Ms. Jackson? You not realize that? When it is that the government has been saying for how many years that with the limited resources that we have, this is what we could do. We cannot give more. If we could have, we would have. But we give as much as we can. And as soon as the country's economic circumstance improves, we will try to do more. But we will put policies in place, not populist policies that is intended to cater for the individual needs of people, which is what the UNC loves to do whenever they're in office. Land for the landless. Fool people, yeah, come. We'll give you a certificate of comfort to go and occupy state land, so that you could, according to Pasad Bisesa, build a 2x4, and then over time, you could graduate a 10x10. While she living in a 15,000 square foot home, you could, she telling you, settle for a 2x4 or a 10x10. Come, we will give you a baby grant, $500 a month to make child. Well, we realized that was 2010 to 2015. So put us back in office, and this time we'll up it to maybe $750 or $800 a month to make child. Yes, be irresponsible. Don't worry. You went and you had another child, don't mind you have 2 or 3 others that you can't afford to mind. The government will give you $800 a month for each additional one that you make, so that you'll be able to buy milk and Pampers. $800 a month could buy milk and Pampers, right? And that is strategy and policy UNC style. Come, we will give you color me orange. Come, we will increase the public assistance grant. Come, we will increase the number of food cards. When we left office, it was 48,000 people getting food cards, and this wicked and evil Keith Rowley administration come and cut it in half or whatever it is, or they remove a whole set of people would have said not deserving of the food card. Rather than giving people hand up, give them handout. Yeah, come. We get a CPAP work and a food card, and you're good to go with that. And you just make you create and fashion your life around CPAP work and a food card. Yeah, that is what they offering. But you see, Kizel had to learn the hard way. She had to learn the hard way. So you decide, you try a thing, and then people say, hey, but we want more than that. That is not enough. What you given is not enough. And she figured, yes, this is what I doing here is what the government should be doing, and they're not doing. This is what the nasty, wicked, Keith Rowley government should be doing for the people, going directly and giving people thing. And how long the thing could last? How long the thing could last? And when you can't maintain it because the money is simply not there, and the people turn on you, right? And they want to devour your life. You come now to do a life to cuss them out and tell them you never tell them to go and open their leg and make a set of children that they can't mind and the child father and how much child father you have and all kind of thing. Is that any way for the political leader of a party who aspires to be the next prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago to be speaking to the very people whose votes you want? Have you sat down with each of these persons and assessed their individual situation? You create a dream for these people. They came there with an expectation based on what you said, based on what you promised. They came there expecting that. You say, I think we're giving away how much thousands of toys. Where the money coming from? I would love to know where she gets all this money from. And that's not my business. That's for the authorities to look into, right? To find out how is she raising all of this money. To not just give away stuff, but then to be promising monthly grants to pensioners and so on of $1,000, other types of grants. The other day she was saying she's offering 3,500 jobs because they say some 35,000, some statistics she saw it's 35,000 people unemployed or whatever it is, and she's going to fill 10% of the vacancies and whatnot. How is she doing that? I don't know. But people just hearing these things and flocking and running to it, you know. No questions asked. And then when they get there, they realize it's water more than flour. So understand it had some bacchanal, some hand pelt and whatnot and stuff. And always quick to blame the PNM. Oh, the PNM send the minions and the PNM send the operatives there to disrupt her thing. And then the PNM had nothing to do with that. You try a thing. The PNM could tell you that does not work. These populist strategies and these populist policies will not work. It is short term. And you're trying to buy votes and buy loyalty by using short-term strategies that you cannot sustain, which is what the UNC does. Give 14%. You don't know where the back pay money coming from, but we're going to figure it out. We just need to win the election. We don't know where we're going to find the income and the revenue from to be able to pay the recurrent expenditure that will arise from this 14%. But we're going to figure it out. We just need to win the election. And then after that, we will see what could happen. Put the exchequer account in permanent overdraft because nobody focusing on that. Chinese don't read the Auditor General's report, so they wouldn't see it that every year that figure keeps going up and going up. Every year it's in the Auditor General's report. Nobody didn't know about Auditor General report between 2010 to 2015, but today, all of a sudden, 2024, we know about Auditor General's report. We know who the Auditor General is. We know who was the Auditor General between 2010 to 2015. Any of them who praise in Jaiwanti could tell you who the Auditor General between 2010 to 2015 was? No idea. They don't know if it was a man, woman, or what. No clue. Right? But all of a sudden, they learn about this thing called the Auditor General's report in 2024. And this Auditor General, she's this heroine. I see the Express writer article, the mouse that roared. The biggest piece of rubbish I have ever read. Right? They give you a whole rehash of that whole situation. But you know the one thing that was missing from that article? What has been the outcome of the supposed meeting that we were told about since the 16th of September that was supposed to take place between the Auditor General and the Central Bank? The meeting that the Auditor General claimed she requested originally and she was denied. And we were told in September, since the 16th of September, that the two parties had agreed to meet so that the Auditor General could come and stick her finger in the wound and go through the electronic check clearing system where the error would have occurred that resulted in the 2.6 billion short understatement of revenue. She could see for herself what had happened and finally put that matter to rest. We are in December, 2 days away from the end of the year, and up to now, the citizens of this country don't know if that meeting took place and what was the outcome. If it didn't take place, why hasn't it taken place yet? Especially this being one of the biggest issues that the population had to deal with for 2024. But here we are more than 3 months later, and we don't know if the meeting took place or if it didn't take place, what was the outcome and why not? The media are not interested in that. But they will write this whole dotish article talking about the mouse that rod and telling you about all the government thing and whatnot and how they try to intimidate the Auditor General and so on. Playing smart with foolishness. And up to now, any media house called the Auditor General to ask her if the meeting took place? Has any media house sent an email to the central bank governor to inquire if the meeting took place? Has any media house sent any correspondence to the Minister of Finance or the Ministry of Finance to inquire, has this meeting took place? Because this meeting is critical to putting an end to that issue. And I am certain that if the meeting has in fact taken place and the Auditor General would have seen where the problem existed, given the fact that resolution of this matter in that way, where she would have to admit that she was wrong, she is not going to call the media and say, hey, you know, so I went to the central bank and I saw the system and yes, the Minister of Finance was correct. I was wrong. You feel she's going to do that? Not at all. Not at all. Next month, in a couple days, we in January, the Ministry of Finance would be required to send yet another report to the Auditor General for fiscal 2023-2024. We're still waiting for closure for 2022-23, you know. But they're going to send another report for this year, right? For her to review. But the one from last year is still outstanding. Going into an election year, you would think that this being a big issue that it is, but the government would have made sure the citizens by now would have had some information as to what happened with that meeting, that critical and crucial meeting. If you're the opposition asking a question, how come they're not interested in that? The opposition knows full well that such a meeting is not good for the Auditor General. So they will just leave that so and hope that the population, that matter lingers on into the general election, where you still have citizens who fully done talking about $3 billion missing and $3 billion missing when no such money is missing. I keep talking about low-hanging fruit. I don't know why it is that the government continues to allow these low-hanging fruit to continue to hang. Deal with that. If it is the meeting hasn't taken place, press it. Inquire. Because the government has more to lose by this matter continuing to linger than anybody else. But yet still, we hear nothing. And a whole article, and no mention is made in that article with respect to that meeting. But we continue. And the propaganda and the misinformation will continue. One wouldn't think that we have a general election coming up in just a few months. You wouldn't think that. No. But just coming back to Miss Jackson, right? If it is that you have hopes and aspirations of becoming the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you need to temper the things that you say, right? Dr. Hawley, when he gave the advice to women, you need to, what was it that he said, boy? Choose your men wisely, right? You need to be a little more circumspect when you're choosing the person that you choose to spend the rest of your life with, or at least a significant portion of your life with, or have children with. And they came over the coals. How he could say something like that? He's so insensitive and all that kind of thing. Right? Now that's all he's saying. No? And that comment came about as a result of a period of time when it is that we saw an upsurge in violence against women, and women were being beaten and killed by their significant other, and so on. Right? And Dr. Ori is basically saying, I think he did a conversation with the Prime Minister, and the question came up or something, and he made some comment to the effect that he was not in the women's bedrooms and so on, and that women need to be a little more circumspect when it comes to choosing your partner. And they was vexed with Dr. Ori for that. Rake him over the call, he's a raging bull, I know we could say that, but here it is that you have the political leader of the All People's Party telling people who she wants to vote for. He never tell you to go and open your leg and take a set of man and make a set of children that you can't mind. Kizelle Jackson never tell you to do that. Right? And you have people endorsing that when you read the comments, you know, yes, give them Kizelle, they're too nasty, they're too greedy, them PNM people, all like that. You feel Dr. Rowley could have said something like that? Whether he was prime minister or not prime minister. You think he could say something like that? I never tell you to go and open your leg and make a set of children. Okay. They find themselves in that unfortunate circumstance and they come to you for help. You offering help and they came to you for help. If you didn't offer, they wouldn't have come. So they come to you in response to your offer for help, and you can't give them the level of help that they thought they were going to get from you. All hell break loose. And then you now want to come and chastise and castigate them because they came with an expectation that you created. Because you want to make it seem as if you could do what the government can't do. That you don't have the amount of money the government have, but yet still you could help people and give gifts and give this and give that. You're not able to sustain it, and you realize what the outcome is. But when the government's saying that all the time, we want to do more, but we can't because we don't have the resources. Because the citizenry keeps wanting more and more and more and more. But the money to give them more and more isn't there. And we're telling all your whole story and we're putting things in place so that at least in 2027, while we may not be able to give you still all that you want, we would be able to give you a little more then than we could give you now because we're supposed to have a little more money then. But all of the efforts that we have been putting in place over the last 4 years, 5 years is supposed to start bearing fruit from 2027. And we're just asking you to hold strain a little bit. They might want to hear that. We don't want to hear out telling nothing about no whole strain. We want it and we want it now. Where want to get it from? Thief it? Borrow it? Withdraw it from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund? Where to take it from? Every avenue that the government has recommended, all have a problem with. Don't increase taxes, don't borrow, don't take from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. So where will it come from? You had to wait until 2027 when the gas starts to flow and we start to make more money. When the plants that are currently down in Point Lisas and so on start to get a little more gas and they're able to produce more and the government earns more taxes, more revenues from these entities and they have a little more money in the coffers. Don't mind, they will still be paying debts that were incurred by the People's Partnership, interest on the billions of dollars that the UNC put the exchequer account into overdraft. The interest that the government's paying on those debts, if they didn't have those debts to service, they would have had a little more money to do more things. They would have been able to pave more roads. So now they have to borrow money to pave road, and the same people who complain about the road bad and we had the worst roads, the same people who have an issue with the government borrowing the money to pave the same damn roads that all they're complaining about. But when the roads fix, all they ain't come in and tell the government thanks. Nah, that they work they're supposed to do what we're praising them for. But when it ain't do, you're quick to complain. You're calling every media house to come and see the state of the road. But when it fix, you ain't talking about that. Yeah, it fix. Why don't call the media to come back and see the road fix? You ain't doing that. And then when it fix, you want to complain. What's the width of the material? How long it going to take before that mash up again? Blame the government for that. Boy. So the Prime Minister put out a message in respect of the murder situation in the country, not the crime. I see the media again continues to play smart with foolishness and using the word crime and murder interchangeably. So I was listening to CNC3 News, well, not last night before, and they're talking about with the crime rate surging past 600. Say the crime rate surging past 600 or the murder rate, not the crime. Crime is not just murder. Crime is a number of other things. But they keep doing that and talking about the crime in the country so bad, crime rather than the murder situation is bad. But what about the other crimes? We're talking about that. Between 2010 to 2015, the People's Partnership, every week, the police service holding a press conference to tell you we have a reduction in rapes and a reduction in larceny, and we have a reduction in this and a reduction. Again, the figures, you know, they're telling you all the other crimes. Yes, we still have a little issue with the murder, but the other crimes, when we see house break-ins and all of these different things are down. But we're still tackling the issue of murder. So everybody know all the different crimes and the categories of crimes under the TTPS. Ask them today, they know what that is? No. You know why? Because the TTPS are doing that again. All we're talking about is the crime and the crime and the crime is terrible. Crime is terrible in Trinidad and Tobago. And we need to leave, and all who looking for the opportunity to get out. And go where? Go where? In which country do you have crime? The only way you could feel safer is because in some of these other countries, you run to North America, Canada, and the US, and so on, you have larger numbers. Larger numbers of persons, so it might be a little more difficult for you to pass in the rush. But then again, You have issues and situations of crime that take place in the US that we don't have that issue here. Because you could send your children to school here comfortably and know that more than likely they're going to come back home without you getting a call from the school telling you that some student come in the school with a high-powered rifle and open fire and kill a few students and a few teachers. We have not had that problem here, but that is commonplace in the US. That you could leave your home to go to the grocery here and still come back here. Possibility is that you might have some shootout taking place between some rival gang or somebody decide to shoot somebody, and possibility you could end up passing the rush. But you're not going to hear in Trinidad that you go to the grocery and some madman walk in with an AR-15 and decide to just open fire randomly and kill people who he has no issues with. You're not likely to go to church and hear that a madman walk in with a M16 and open fire randomly and kill a set of people in the church. Or that you went to an open air concert and some man decided to rent a hotel room overlooking the park where the concert taking place and decide to open fire randomly and kill a set of innocent concert goers who just came to take in the concert. All of these things that we hear about and see taking place in the great United States of America, where everything is supposed to be perfect. When you listen to Somalia, not likely to hear that. All I know, yeah, I think if I could get the opportunity to leave, I go on, yes, and some of them say, I got out 2 years ago, I got 5 years ago, and it's the best decision I ever make. Best decision you ever make. But the people in the very same country that you're in, who born there and grow there, complaining about the cost of living and all of that and different concerns, but it's the best decision you ever make. And you wish you could have bring more people with you. Well, show them how you do it. Show them how you do it now. You're there for 3 years, 5 years now, the best decision you ever make, but every time you see somebody, a federal employee with the word ICE on their jacket, you're sweating. Huh? You're sweating like a pimp with one prostitute. Because you're so afraid that Donald Trump coming in now and talk about mass deportation. You're worried. Your whole head turned green. You know what you're going to do. Because you know if it is now, they're going to be a little more doing a little more scrutiny for persons because you don't look American. So they want to see if you have your papers. You're there 20 years now and you have your papers still. Right? And you quite likely you might end up being sent back with this mass deportation. We're even talking about persons who are born in the US, they want to try and see if they can come up pass a law to be able to revoke that and all. Yes. So your parents were immigrants, but you were born there, but your parents undocumented. And the man who Donald Trump has chosen to be the border czar say, well, we'll deport everybody. Yeah, you were born here, okay. But if we don't want to break up the family, we have no problem deporting everybody. All you go back. So all you don't need to be upset and you're missing your family. We send everybody back. Yeah, but I there 5 years now and it's the best decision ever made. Best decision, my foot. Let me read this here, right? So I was making the point that Dr. Rowley was talking about lamenting situation with the crime, his disappointment that we have crossed the 600 marker and on course, if we haven't already done so, we are on course for record murder rate in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, right? Let me get this here. I see where Dr. Rowley would have singled out certain entities who he was responsible for contributing to the crime situation. Not the least among them being, of course, the judiciary. The role that the judiciary plays, where Dr. Auditor has spoken about, sometimes judges treat these criminals as if they are victims with respect to the light sentencing. And Mr. Israel Khan, who seems to have a vendetta against who appears to have a vendetta against the Chief Justice, decided to write an article titled Speak Up Archie. And I see Wayne Sturge, who has been selected by the UNC to contest the Sangre Grande seat as their standard bearer for the next general election. He too has challenged the Prime Minister. In fact, there's been a lot of criticism and condemnation. They say the Prime Minister blame everybody except the government. Let me just read one thing here quickly before I go there, right? And this is an article from the 13th of November. It's the most recent I could find. Barbados close to pre-pandemic murder rates. A dramatic surge in murders this year has so far left 45 people dead, compared to 20 in 2023, bringing Barbados close to its pre-COVID-19 pandemic peak, a government report has revealed. A senior lawman has warned that violence stemming from perceived disrespect is emerging as a threat to law and order in the country. The spike in killings comes amid growing concern over the increasing involvement of children in serious violence crimes, according to the findings presented by criminologists in the Attorney General's office, revealing that the age of the offenders is significantly decreasing, with many individuals between the ages of 11 and 15 years old being charged with serious offenses like murder and robbery. Between 11 and 15 years old. Between 11 and 15 years old. We're talking here about Barbados, right? When we look at the persons who the police, when they do hold somebody for murder or whatever in Trinidad, when we look at the ages, it's between 17 and 25. 17 and 25, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, these perpetrators were teenagers. Some of them were in primary school. Today, they are seasoned criminals. Revealing that the age, right, so, right, let me get here. Charged with serious offenses like murder and robbery. We have 16-year-olds committing murder, fresh out of school and obviously with no guidance. These young people are not only perpetrators, but increasingly victims of violent crime as well. The island is approaching its highest murder count in recent years, which reached approximately 50 in 2019. We have come out of one of our lowest rates of homicides in 10 years, and now we are at 45 murders, and we haven't even finished the years yet. This is deeply concerning for us, Ramsey said. The criminologist reported that this shift has underscored the need for targeted interventions. We must address this young population who are becoming involved in and affected by crime and various social programs that provide structure, guidance, and alternatives for these youths. The report highlighted that firearms were used in 70% of the slayings, though violent crimes constitute only 7% of the average 6,400 cases reported annually. Also of concern, according to Ramsey, are property violations, particularly theft and burglary, which revealed remain the most prevalent, accounting for a substantial portion of reported cases. Home invasions. Whilst overall crimes resolution stands at 64%, Ramsey presented findings that the police are struggling to solve property crimes effectively, with only 17% of residential burglaries being solved. Home invasions. These findings also reveal widespread assaults across all police divisions, often resulting from unresolved conflicts that escalate. Deputy Commissioner of Police Erwin Boyce reported that the rise of cybercrime and violence stemming from perceived disrespect are emerging as critical threats to law and order in Barbados. Crime has changed over time, and what used to be offenses many years ago are either consolidated in particular offenses or they are emerging as new threats. Crime threats, Boyce said. And the article goes on. While recognizing society's desire for minimal crime, Boyce acknowledged that because people have choices, there will always be lawbreakers. He emphasized the importance of research-driven approaches, suggesting they could provide us with answers or provide us with some level of predictability in the way that we do our business. This was in early November. They were at 45 murders. And the record before that was 50 murders in 2019. So it seems Barbados is also on course to record the highest murder rate this year as well. Jamaica, I think they just crossed 1,150 murders for this year. They're a little down from last year. Last year, they recorded 1,393 murders. The year before that, 1,511 murders. And for yet another year, they've crossed the 1,100 murder mark. Despite the fact that every time you have an upsurge in murders in Jamaica, what they're doing, they call in a state of emergency in this parish and a state of emergency in that parish to try and curtail the murder situation. Yeah, but it's the same Jamaica that Mr. Admiraj a few months ago wrote an article recommending that the Prime Minister reach out to Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, for some suggestions, recommendations, and strategies on how to deal with the crime situation. Right? Because apparently 1,150 murders is acceptable in Jamaica, but it hasn't put a dent on their tourism figures, right? People still flocking to Jamaica from all over the world. Cruise ships go in there by the dozens. Right? They make a ton of money in tourism, despite the fact that their murder rate is higher than ours. I don't want to hear no per capita nonsense. Miss me with that foolishness. Speak up, Archie. I write this open letter to His Lordship, Ivor Archie ORTT. Why does that sound tongue-in-cheek? Chief Justice of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm calling on him to categorically refute the baseless, deliberate, vulgar, and wicked accusation made by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley that the judges presiding in our criminal courts are false to their oath in dispensing justice to criminals. in that they pretend that the convicted criminals are victims who deserve mercy in order to pass inappropriate sentences upon them. In an attempt to exonerate himself and his government of failing to curb violent crimes, especially murders which broke the record of all-time 615 as at yesterday, the Prime Minister sought to put the blame on the judiciary and, among others, the Commissioner of Police and the Police Service, relatives and friends of the criminals, and, as mentioned, the sentencing judges. Dr. Rowley said in a statement on his Facebook page, to those in authority who are responsible for dispensing justice, stop pretending that criminals are the victims who deserve only mercy when their heartless, lawless behavior. When by their heartless, lawless behavior, they are to receive firm punishment as prescribed by the law as enacted in anticipation to cover the various destabilizing practices. I wish to publicly say to the Prime Minister that the false accusation made against our judges is simply an escape for him and his government's ineptitude, incompetence, and lack of political will to solve the problems of crime in the country. Prime Minister, you have told the country and the outside world that our sentencing judges know that the convicted criminals should receive firm punishment by the law, but pretend that they are victims who deserve only mercy in order to pass lenient sentences upon them. That, my dear Prime Minister, is a wicked, evil, deliberate, nasty, and nefarious lie you are telling the country and the world at large. That accusation comes close to misbehavior in public office. You are not saying that the judges are making a great mistake. You are saying that they are pretending the criminals are victims in order to let them off the hook with inappropriate and light sentences. No wonder you never reprimand your Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines, for accusing judges of keeping the company of criminals. I wish to enlighten the public that all criminal advocates and judges assigned to criminal courts are quite aware that there is a legal concept which guides sentencing judges. Justice has always been portrayed as a goddess with scales in her hand. A crime makes one of the scales sink. Punishment is designed to restore balance. Justice needs the sword in order to ensure that her scales are not permanently unbalanced. When a sentence is to be imposed, the first decision to be made should be as to the object to be achieved by it. In other words, a sentencing court must constantly bear in mind the philosophical concepts of punishment, that is, retribution, deterrence, prevention, and reformation. And the law does not fix the sentence for a particular crime unless a capital offense, death by hanging, but fixes a maximum sentence and leaves it to the court to decide what is within the maximum, the appropriate sentence for each convicted criminal in the particular circumstances of each case. Not only in regard to each crime, but also to each criminal, the court has the right and the duty to decide whether to be lenient or severe. Thus, Honorable Chief Justice, the ball is now in your court to defend your judges against an obnoxious Prime Minister. Or are you still beholden to him for not triggering Section 137 in order to find out whether you misbehaved in public office? And I say to the criminal judges in our courts, form a delegation and seek an audience with the Chief Justice on this issue. And if perhaps he's cowering under the Prime Minister, the individual judges can speak out. The accusation of not obeying your sacred oath as a judge of the High Court and thus pretending to render justice, when in fact you are deliberating corrupting justice, is a very serious issue. I don't need to read anymore. I think they get it just. How that become an issue for the Chief Justice, I don't know. But anyway, this is the same Israel Khan who told us 4 years ago, when the UNC decided not to support the bail amendment bill, told us that the UNC would pay a hell of a price, a heavy price. I'm going to remind all you that. You see them on the hypocrisy? I calling them out on it. I'll just read a little bit of it. All right, this is the last topic I'll touch on for today before I open the lines. Can brace for more crime. UNC will pay a hefty price, a high price. This was on the 21st of November 2020, 4 years ago. Failure of the government and the opposition to come to a middle ground and extend the life of the Anti-Gang Bill 2020 could only lead to higher levels of crime in TNT, says Senior Counsel Attorney Israel Khan. Crime will get worse, but the UNC will pay a high political price for not supporting that bill. The people who are not blinded by PNM or UNC, the intelligentsia in the country, would not vote for a party that is indirectly supporting crime. On Friday, following a debate in Parliament, the motion to extend the 2018 anti-gang bill for an additional 2.5 years was defeated after all 19 UNC MPs abstained from the vote. the government had presented an amendment to extend the life of the bill for another 30 months. It required a 3/5 majority of the 41 MPs for passage. Khan called on politicians to carry out the work of the nation and not just represent their own narrow interests. I cry shame on the UNC for protecting their selfish, narrow interests. They believe that if crime exists and there is a disruption in society, that will assist them in getting back in government because people will be fed up of the present government. So, people will be fed up of the present government. Get this here. And that is a very selfish approach in the politics of this country. Senior counsel Martin Daly told the Sunday Guardian he is disappointed that there was a lack of any cooperation between the government and the opposition. I don't know whether that lack of cooperation is responsible for the failure of the bill, but I feel there's a lot of work is going to go to waste. So let me just get this here. So this was Israel Khan calling out the UNC. He told us 4 years ago, he predicted there would be an increase in crime because of the decision of the United National Congress not to support the bill, the anti-gang legislation and so on. Are we not seeing that today? But he wants to chastise the prime minister. But the same woman who he supports, who he is on public record as having said he will support whichever person she puts up as a candidate in 2025 in Tunapuna to represent the UNC as a resident of Tunapuna, he will be supporting that person, even though that person might be no damn good. He says so, not me. He said that. Israel Khan said that, right? So he plans to support whoever she puts up. She was the same one who just a few months ago back in May was chastising a master of the court for giving bail to a man who was already on bail for murder. Came before the court on a charge of being found in possession of a stolen vehicle. And the master of the court gave him bail again. Prasad Bisesa put out a press release calling for the judicial, the GLSC and whoever else to investigate this master of the court for giving this lenient sentence. Right, for giving this man bail despite the fact that he was out on bail for murder, gave him bail again for a lesser offense nonetheless. And then she referenced some other person that the same master of the court had given lenient bail for some drug case or whatever it is, and she was calling for the master of the court to be investigated. So when Prasad Bisesa did that, did Israel Khan come out and defend the master of the court for doing her job? Did he come out and defend the master of the court? Did he call on the Chief Justice then to come out and defend the master and all the masters of the court? Did he call for the masters of the court to come together and come and speak against Prasad Bisesa and approach the Chief Justice for to defend their good names and to defend their colleague in excess? Because that is basically what Prasad Bisesa did. When it is that she called for an investigation into this master of the court, she was implying what? What was she implying? Not that this master of the court was, might be doing something untoward. That this level of leniency, that this person should have been denied bail. But when we look at the bail that this particular person has been giving is cause for concern. Where was Israel Khan then to defend that master of the court? Where was he? But the prime minister said it, basically the same thing. And prime minister, you heard all the different words that he used there to describe the prime minister's statements, right? Convenient. These men and women of letters, men and women, hypocrites is what Israel Khan is, a hypocrite. Because if you didn't come out to defend against what Prasad Bisesa did, and she put out a whole press release, did she follow up on it? How many times have we seen within the last couple of years, since it is the UNC went to the court, petitioned the court to make murder a non-bailable offense? How many times have we seen persons come before the court who have been on murder charges, come before the court having been let out on bail for murder, committed more crimes, and have come before the court and have received bail another time? When the average citizen is saying that should not be happening because this person has already shown themselves to be a nuisance, a public nuisance. You are behind bars for murder. And you get out on bail, thanks to the UNC. You get out on bail, you're going and commit another crime. You come before the court again, and the court give you bail again. And expects what? That you're going to turn your life around. You say, well, I get two blessings. Let me turn my life around, give my life to the Lord and look for honest work. How are you going to get honest work? When you have 2 charges against you, which means that you can't get a clean certificate of character, so nobody ain't going to hire you. Unless it is that you probably know somebody who into construction and they probably hire and tell you, come, you'll get a little day work. But otherwise, that you're not going to get any legitimate work because you cannot get a clean certificate of character, which is a requirement for most employers today. So we expect them to go and do. How they paying for the bill? Where they getting the money from to pay bill and pay lawyer? Where they getting it from? So that when it is these things are happening, where was Israel Khan? Where was Prasad Bisesa? And these are the things that Dr. Oli is talking about. I read yesterday where a man plead guilty to killing his wife, second wife that he has killed. Strangulation, because he couldn't help visualizing his wife performing oral sex on an next man. And he was so frustrated, choked the woman to death, right? Because she cheated on you. Kill your first wife because you said that she attacked your son. And in the same manner, choked the woman to death. And he got off on a bond to be able to come again and kill a second time. Now, if the justice system had dealt with him the first time, when he killed the first wife, he would not have been in a position to kill the second one. And perhaps today, this young lady would still be alive. 2 women he has killed. Right? And he's saying, well, I was drunk and I was out of my senses and I didn't know what I was doing. So that is leniency. Right? The first time, he was able to use that as a mitigating factor and the court gave him a blind. He pleaded guilty this time, plea deal with the DPP's office, and he got a lesser sentence. This is a man who has killed 2 women. 2 women he has killed and got a lighter sentence. So I think he will serve some 13 years in jail and then he will be free to come out now and probably kill again. And this is what Dr. Oli is talking about. There are certain people for whom, as far as I am concerned, plea bargaining should not be an option. If you kill 2 women, that shouldn't be an option for you. That is off the table. Take him to trial and let the law deal with it. All this nonsense about he was drunk and whatever it is, and because the woman cheated on you, so you that gave you the right to kill her to take her life because you can't handle her on. And today you have a much lesser sentence. You have persons who are sitting on death row. They kill 1 person and they're on death row. He killed 2, and he's facing just 13 more years in prison because they knock out the crime took place in 2020, so they knock out 4 years for the time served already, that he has already been in prison waiting for trial. You come now and you plead guilty, and therefore you get a much lesser sentence. He should be remaining behind bars for the rest of his natural life. Even if you death penalty, rest of his natural life, he's supposed to be in prison. You killed 2 women. That is what Dr. Rowley is talking about. Things like that. That could never gel with the population. That a man who killed 2 women in 13 years or so will be out of prison, served his sentence, to go and link up with another woman by then, and then what? Kill her too? And what excuse will he come with then? That is what the Prime Minister talking about. Why Israel can't address things like that? Would never do that. Right? But they will come and say, what kind of thing about the Prime Minister? And you think judges, and you want to blame everybody except for yourself and blame the government and so on. That's the government fault. Yesterday, a man got killed outside a police station. I think it's Bessemer Street Police Station or some police station around there. These criminals have become so brazen. They're killing in front of the police station, or they have no regard for the police. You know why? Because the deterrent factor has been removed thanks to the UNC. Because they know if they commit a crime, they kill a man, chances are they will get bail. Especially if it is the first offense. They will get, more than likely they will get bail. And they will be out to kill again, while it is that this matter taking years to call. So whereas before there was the deterrent factor that, hey, if I get a hole, I could end up on remand for many, many years inside those filthy prison conditions for years waiting for my case to call. Now, don't worry about that. Thanks to the UNC. Murder is now available offense, don't worry. You just need a good lawyer. And within days of the police, if they catch you, don't worry, you're back out on the streets within a week, 2 weeks tops to be able to kill again. We had to pay the lawyer. Where the money coming from to pay the lawyer? And he probably get catch for that murder, but who knows how many other murders he has committed. Just this one they hold you for. You're free to go back outside and do what? Kill again. And so any witnesses, potential witnesses that there may be who would have seen you commit this murder, they now have to be living in fear that you're going to come to kill them. Right? So them hush. They have nothing to say. They won't tell the police nothing. They see anything. They hear nothing. Right. Me, I wasn't there. Witness, not me. I tell you, 7701763. Let me just connect this thing here. Right. Mr. Yates.
Yes, good morning.
Morning,
Are you
sir.
hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Very good. It is vitally important for people to have a sense of recollection. And in the instance of Israel Khan, now, if you notice in the last few days, he has been on a roll. A letter for almost every day for the last 3 days. Right? Now, let us remember who was or were in the forefront of this move to have Ivor Archie placed before a tribunal and removed from office and have a Chief Justice of their choice. When I say they, I mean UNC. Replace Ivor Archie in the top seats in this country. But you see, that is the context in which this attack on Dr. Rowley is taking place now. That is the context, that is the root of the whole thing. Because Dr. Rowley resisted the move by the UNC arm of the Law Association to impeach Ivor Archie. That is what it is. That is why we're getting all this talk now in yesterday's Guardian about Dr. Rowley have no morals, and he have no values, and he have no this, and almost to the point of what Ralph Moral says about him, that he's low class, and he this, and he shouldn't be prime minister, and this and that. Bear well in mind, it is important for us in this country to bear well in mind the UNC fact, and it is a fact of life, who the UNC nominated to replace Paula May Weeks as the new president of Trinidad and Tobago. They lost out in the parliament, but keep that in the forefront of your mind, people. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. And that is part of the context in which you now find this revisitation of this broadside on Ivor Archie yet again. Because some of the nastiest things were said about this man, Some of the nastiest things were said about this man. And it doesn't surprise me that it has come right back into the public glare from none other than Mr. Israel Khan. Ivor Archie is the central issue here. That is the context. That is the issue. Secondly, Madam Bissetta, as you referred to it earlier, the thing about burn them on election day. You are going to use, a human and national tragedy to use the term burn them as a metaphor to further your electoral prospects next year. What are you suggesting? The people, the woman and her 2 children were consumed in a fire. They were burnt to death. And you are using, the filthiest of metaphors to help you to win election next year? Why the hell you went and signed any condolence book in any case when you were going to say this nasty thing about the people, even in the face of death? But it reminds me of a calypso by deceased what's his name again? The fellow from South, composer. The punchline in one of his early calypsos was simply this, and that is why it is always said, a cat born in an oven is not a bird. Let us keep that well in mind. And you see the language of Israel Khan in the last few days? It is not inconsistent with what we have been reading from Ralph Morales. It is not inconsistent. It is all part of the ramping up, Mr. Roman, the ramping up of the UNC vanguard for the general election next year. Having been overlooked for the job of presidency of this country, he has now dug his heels in. And as I told you, look at it in the last 3 days, 3 different letters. The last one, an attack he has gone back to attacking Iowa. And you see, some people are so naive and stupid. They don't even realize that by their utterances, they let the cat out of the bag. I knew what this whole attack on Dr. Rowley was all about, you know. But he come out and say it. You see, he come and talk about Section 157. Yes. It all had to do with the tribunal. Dr. Rowley stopped it in its tracks. He stopped it in its tracks. And that is why, that is the context in which Israel Khan has now engaged in a revisitation of the Archie matter and this broadside on Dr. Rowley, attacking his character. He has no morals, he has no values, he's this, he's low class, he this, he that, the other. That is the genesis of the whole thing. His inaction in doing what the UNC and Israel Khan wanted done about Ivor Archie. That is what it is, plain and simple. Plain and simple. And Mrs. Vicessa, you should not have signed any condolence book. You should not have signed any condolence book. What the hell do you mean by they're going to burn them in the general election next year? 3 people have died. You're on the opposite side, but it's a cabinet colleague and 2 children. How burn them in the election come into this thing, madam? That is inherent nastiness and low classness. You all in the UNC don't like to hear these things, but you need to be reminded and told in the strongest possible terms. That is just, it's a term people don't like to hear, but it's downright low class, gutter snipe behavior. That is what it is, madam. And finally, I have to say one thing about one person, a regular letter writer. The name of the person is Rudy Cheto Paul Jr. Well, he's on a roll too. He's on a roll. And mind you, he boasts of being a former sociology lecturer. But hear this. The other day, he wrote, as soon as the parliament passed the legislation for the steel pan to become a national instrument, about a day or 2 after, he wrote a letter saying that for many people, including me, steel band music is just noise. It's just noise. And you see, that encapsulates and it characterizes the thinking of Indo-Trinidad about steel band music. They cannot relate to it as part of the cultural strand of this country. No, the harmonia, the dala, the dolak, the tata, that is culture. So he let the cat out of the bag too. That is not music for him. You know what I'm saying? That for many people like me, it's just noise. It's just noise. But as a close, I have one thing to say to Rudy Cheto Paul Jr. One more thing, You boast in your letters that you were a former sociology lecturer at some university. Well, boy, I'm so glad I wasn't there when you were teaching. I'm so glad that I don't have a child or nephew or niece in your class at any point in time. I read a letter from you some months ago. Phil, in primary school many years ago, we used to do dictation and spelling. We used to do dictation and spelling. Let me recommend to you a bit of education in your spelling. Let me just remind you that when you talk about Tragarit Road, it's not T-R-A-G-A-R-E-T, Mr. Rudy Cheto Paul. T-R-A-G-A-R-E-T-E. So while you're boasting that you're a former sociology lecturer, shed some of your illiteracy and spare the nastiness and the illiteracy for a change. Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, sir. Well, I guess he wouldn't have been too pleased with Joshua's performance yesterday. Certainly not. Get this here. One section. All right, we just Jenny.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi.
I just want to wish you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
All the blessings for you. And by extension, I want to wish all those who celebrated birthdays and also you would have celebrated Christmas going into New Year's a blessed New Year to everyone. All those children of Kinas, Paxos, stubborn things. That whatever you wish for yourself for 2025, I wish the same for you coming from me and my family. I firmly believe that, and I also want to congratulate Joshua Regalo on his feat in terms of ending up in the Guinness Books of Records, I would say, for being the only person that would have played a steel pan for 30 hours. And what is so beautiful about it, the United Nations would have declared August 11th as World Steel Pan Day. Soon after, this government brought a bill to the parliament that was passed that made the steel pan a national instrument. So when you look at those things in context, and you also look at the fact that this year was the ending of the decade of persons of African descent as proclaimed by the United Nations. However, because they felt that things weren't realized in a real way, although there was some acknowledgement of what would have happened to persons of enslaved Africans and descendants, they felt it necessary to add another 10 years so that there's another 10 years of these people of African descent. So again, as I say, when you look into context of everything that has happened, that is good news for us. We now have to make sure it is translated in real ways in the African community and do not feel guilty or ashamed of wanting what we would have fought for, what is deserving of us. I want to say to me, the justice to me is not blind, and I seriously mean that. I think Lady Justice has to lift her blindfold and peep to see what race you are, what ethnic group you're from, and then it will be decided how your punishment would be. I do not believe that the scale of justice is equal. I think it is tilted in a favorable position for anybody else other than people of African descent. And I'll continue to say that, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Because those who talk about the loudest now, they are the best criminal lawyers in this country. Very, very good at their work. The emphasis on criminal lawyer. Not defense lawyer, not chief prosecutor, criminal lawyer. And they're very good at their job. So what they're saying to me is a contradiction. I also want to ask, if it is so easy to call Dr. Pete Christopher Rowley a house slave, can I also call them of another race house Dalits? Because they say you can't be telling me one thing, insulting me, and we know that calling an African person a house slave is derogatory. But you're afraid now if somebody call you a Dalit. Or if they call you a feel, I'm going to spell the word, not the way it is spelled, but everybody knows what I mean. They call you a feel, K-O-O-L-L-E-E. Then you cannot be dismayed and you can't play victim. Because you cannot continue to insult us using words that you know are discriminatory, racist in its intent, and don't expect nobody to respond to you. And when you get responded to, you have a problem. I will tell people again, simply put, 2025 is a new year. All you big, all you have self. If all you don't love all yourself, all you have self-confidence, and all you full of self-hate, people like Philip Alexander, Senior Counsel Israel Khan, Kama Prasad Bissessa, Gary Griffith, Anisette, and all the others, Roja and all the others, could come to you and sell a song and a dance song and they believe it. Because I'll tell you what, they're not talking to encourage the Indian population to vote for UNC. That is a given. That the Indian population, the majority of them will vote UNC. So they're not trying to convince no Indian person to vote for UNC. They're trying to convince African people to vote for UNC. Because that's the only way UNC and all of them come together could ever win an election. So again, I say if you don't have self-love, You don't have self-confidence as a person of African descent, and you're full of self-hate. You will fall into the things they tell me because all of them tell me, Kamala corrupt. She's a drunk. They thief money from the treasury like they never thief before. They're the most corrupted party, kleptocratic. Every one of them involved in crime. We didn't say so. And if only hearing all that. And so then them same people who say that join back with Kamala to convince all you to vote for UNC or any other. They want to put themselves for a partnership, censorship, whatever, and only vote for them. It's because they understand the psyche of all you and the self-hate all you feel. And they will use that to pretend they love all you. Like Philip all of a sudden love us. Philip could never understand what African people are going through because all the thing he's talking about is 1% and the Syrian community and only profanity and insults. If he walk in the bank in the morning, the only criteria he needs is he's Syrian, Lebanese, he light color and he has soft hair. So he could never understand what African people are go through in this country. But if you listen to him, he never tell you what he would do. He just tell you all without probably doing all you. But all he talking about the community. I don't go to like him for coming out and talking. Yes, tell it as it is. Let me tell you something. He has white privilege in this country. He has color privilege in this country. So you can say all what he say. He can walk away from politics. His businessman could crash. All kind of things. But be assured, he could get money in the bank anytime. Just because of the fact he's from the Syrian Lebanese community, he likes skin and he hair soft. So let's sit down as African people and get tired with Philip like he love all you. All remember Stephen Katie is, he did love we too. What about Keith Noel 136? And he used that to his advantage, that was his employee, and he used it, and he used it. And when he gets into office, what became of the Keith Noel 136 committee? Have we heard anything about that? What new developments he made in the African community to help the African community? So that I just use all those who have self-hate and who have no self-confidence, or the Africans who want to play like all they empty and don't understand how the game is, and caught up to them and their rhetoric, and them sitting back and laughing because when they get to office, it's the same state they're going to leave you in. We as you have a government, it has never been an African party, it has been a national party. All the government policies was put in place by the PNN. Katie's and all of them, Philip, all of them, Cam, all of them. They enjoyed Israel, Khan, all of them. Because when he came back from Canada, he went to a black man law firm to work. He was one of the best criminal attorneys in this country, which was African men. He and all benefited from the government policies in this country. And so they did us cost. The same PNN, who because of government policy had them where they are. The UNC never had no government policy of empowerment of nobody. The NAR never had no government policy of no empowerment to everybody. And all the others and them, the only party that always had government policies in the interest of all citizens. And because again, African has self-hate, some of them not taking and making use of the policies and things they make people who spend theirs, or well, they win and work for, that dog work for small money, or they go to the gardening, farmer, or they go to learn trade, or they supposed to get just so the money the country have money. And when they tell all of that, all they self-hating African people, they're telling them, all Indian, all Chinese, all other races, make sure you take advantage of all the policies and everything that is there, because it's for all of us. So they continue. And I went by saying, all those who find what I'm saying is racial and racism, it's because all they want to use have it as an excuse not to take responsibility for the action. Because nothing I have said is racist. It is real. And everything I'm saying is for us to work together as a country, as a nation, all races together to build this country, because every creature is fine equal thing. But all our problems we are saying is because they have problem with all yourself. I love you all. Have a blessed one.
Thank you, Jen. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon to you, my brother. Good afternoon. Welcome back, my brother.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to the callers, listeners, and all of Facts as Surroundings are the final Sunday of 2024. First of all, Dominic, let me take this opportunity to wish you a belated birthday greetings.
Thank you.
Right? And I hope that you'll live to see many, many more years to come. You know, there's some people on the live right now. I see some more. Right. Secondly, I want to say thanks again to you for another successful year and bringing the facts to the people. Right, because you know, without you, without Jenny and all these other prominent personnel, that the information would not be out there. So I must say thanks to you again for another successful year of delivering the facts to the listeners, your followers, and your viewers. Right, and I know next year will be a very bumper year because that is when it's chocolate will start. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't want to dive too much into Kamla and them and the UNC because at the end of the day, they were a persona non grata in my space. Because all what them doing right now is trying to double down on every single thing that the government did over the last 10 years. So they try to double down everything. So it wouldn't make sense I was in my breath, my time on Kamla and them. All I have to tell my people, come next year, God's willing, let's stay focused, right? Because you know they're going to come in all form, shape, and size, right? To bamboozle your head. You know they will try to soften up and Mama Gaia with all kind of niceness in order to understand the reality. Kamla Posagi is not going to be the leader of that party. They're just using her just what they did in 2010 as a window screen or window dressing. So jump high, jump low. She will just be there, but the likes of Munilal, Ratiram, and the Cabal and the UNC will be pulling the strings just what they did in 2010 when Ramachandran was there. So it makes no difference then, and certainly it won't make no difference coming now in the future. So my trade Begonian people, stay focused. We have an election to fight. We don't want what the government would have done in the last 10 years goes to naught and put these kleptocratic cronies into office, because once them go there, it's hell break loose in this country. You see how they're talking about the crime statistics and the crime and the crime and the crime and the crime and the crime? Murder is part of the crime situation. So when you're talking about crime, and this is for the uneducated trolls who on YouTube and on Facebook and who listening. Crime have different categories, right? We have rape, human trafficking, we have fraud, extortion, home invasion, murder, you name it. That is crime. We are talking about the murder statistics in this country. And as much I am displeased of the figures we have in right now, right? That people was hoping, and I will never forget when the year started this year. Prominent persons who claimed they loved the auntie was predicting that the murder toll would have reached 700 by the end of this year. You understand? So right now, we fall short by 80. You understand? And these are the people who want us to govern this country by any means possible. Because why? I want to use murder statistics in this country as a political tool to drive myself into governance come next year. You understand? So with Philip Alexander, who trying to play this shining armor for the UNC or trying to shield Kamala, Philip Edward Alexander, I want you to tell us about $30,000 allegedly you receive from somebody and you give them a 619, right? I want you to tell us, Philip Edward Alexander, right? You want to jump up and want to play mass and freight powder, right? You want to jump up and want to play that you big bad wolf. So you take over from Anna Roberts. I want you, Philip Edward Alexander, to tell us what happened to the lands up in Fort George where he reside allegedly with a neighbor, right? You see, Dominic, this man don't like African people. Philip Edward Alexander do not like African people, and he pretends to like East Indian people. He don't like nobody. He don't even like his own self. And I gonna put my hand, stain my hand, to put you to run my affairs in this country for 5 years. I'll be a real Dumbo Soro to put you inside there. You understand? And said Roger, Philip Edward Alexander, Gary Griffiths, and all of these other so-called leaders had nothing good to say about Kamala. But today, you have Philip and you have Roger rubbing shoulders with Kamala. You know why? It's the treasury they want to get into. So people of this country, we have to safeguard our treasury from these bandits, bullets, pimps, prostitutes, and drunkards and deadbeats that want to run this country, right? With that being said and done, I want to take this opportunity to wish all a bright and prosperous 2025, and let us continue the work. There are a lot of work to be done going forward into the election next year. So people, my followers, listeners, callers of Debunking Facts and Stubborn Things, Let Me Talk the Thing, and all these other various platforms, all the best 2025, and let's get the job going. Dominic, good program.
Thank you. I want to tell, I saw someone by the name of, what's her name? Jasodra, saying that every time election come around, the government has come up with something like Section 34. Section 34, Jasodra, happened in 2012. 2 years after the People's Partnership came into office, 2 years. It had no election in 2012. There was no election in 2012. So I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. Every time an election comes in, there's come up with thing like Section 34. All right? 2012 versus 2015. So come better than that now, please. And to Mr. Bachelor, who talking nonsense about we moved from 7th in the world in crime and murders to 6th in the world who's in power. Well, let me tell you something, Winston, because apparently all of us forget your memory short. In 2013, you know where we were? 3rd in the world. 3rd, Winston, in 2013. Go and check it on the same crime index. We were 3rd in the world with respect to murders. Last I checked on that crime index, 3rd is worse than 6th. 3rd is worse than 7th. Winston, where were you in 2013 when we were 3rd? Were you all over social media bumping your gum, Winston, and talking about we 3rd in the world and who in charge and who in power? Were you asking that then? All of you hypocrites with your convenient memory. Right? When the PNM in power, all of a sudden, all your memory is 2020 vision. But when it is that when Kamala in office, your brain, your memory suffering from glaucoma and cataract, well, go and research it. And look at most criminal country in the world 2013 and look at the index when it comes up and see we were 3rd. But we know what Kamala mathematics, less is more and more is less. So you think 3rd was better than 6th? 3rd is better than 7th? Miss me with all your BS. Nonsense. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Don darling. How are you? Welcome back.
Hi.
Amazing about Alexander. He has the words to say about Kamala. He's underarmed. Serious. Where is his class? Where's Kamala's pride? If you back talk me, I don't want a grain of salt from you. Philip and Gary, Robert, and Naked are three of the worst things in politics. They are the scum of politics. Kizzy, same bloody thing too. Where's your class? Had any peer member say those things, Facebook would have cost them from A to Z and from Z to A. Kizzy has a question now. Duke, was he married on a single man? When you slept with him, you were judging Kizzy, but you slept with a married man. That's adultery. He had children. You put children held so they put their legs closed. So don't judge Kizzy. They have children, right? But different men. At least they kept their children. You are not fit for office. Out, yes. Office, no. How dare you? What you want to lead? You can't even lead dead goose into a pot. You're incompetent and you're crazy. You, Philip and Kamala, should be a man of the same word, plotting here and playing hopscotch. How dare you? If PM Rowley had said that, he'll be raped, he'll be flogged, presented. You serious? What part of you is fit for office? Kamala, the money you will get it. Will be two things. Hell and come next year, we're going to fire truck, Walk with several fire trucks. Because the money will get what we didn't go on the football when they bam. I'm going to have a good bye.
Thank you. Winston, come on, man. Stop playing smart with foolishness. Under Manning, we had 559 murders, which pushed the index to third place under Kamala. 2013, Winston. 3 years after Mr. Manning was no longer Prime Minister. 3 years. They had 2010, 2011, 2012. We're talking here 2013, Winston. Seriously? So 3 years after, they're still blaming Mr. Manning? But now it is that when Dr. Rowley wants to blame Kamala Prasad, he says, oh, he only blaming Kamala and blame the UNC and blame Kamala. But here it is 3 years after they were in office, when they promised put us in office and we will fix crime, they were third in the world. And you're trying to tell me in 1 year, 559 push us to third? Miss me with that BS, please. Come better than that. And then I see Joshua saying that Section 34 brought down the Prasad Bisesa administration. Really? Well, apparently Kamala didn't get that memo. Because the UNC told us the reason why they lost office in 2015 was because of Emailgate. Oh, Rowley lie on the People's Partnership Government and Emailgate bring down the government. They told us the reason why they lost office in 2015 was because of the 1 hour extension that EBC and the EBC teeth the election. And if the EBC didn't extend the voting by 1 hour, that they would have won because their information was up until 6 o'clock. They were ahead in the polls, and the 1 hour extension is what cost them the election. And then we had Kamala Prasad Bisesa come some years afterwards and tell us, well, it's probably because they didn't repeal the Property Tax Act. She held a cottage meeting under somebody's house, and a guy asked the question, you told us that you were going to repeal the Property Tax Act in 2010, and you didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? And she said, well, maybe that's why we lost the election, because we didn't do it. So it's all kind of different excuses. So now we hear in Section 34 is Emailgate, is the 1 hour extension. Pick a struggle. Which one was it? But I could tell you why they lost in the office. You know why? It's because they were dishonest. It is not just those things that we mentioned. There's a whole set of other things that every Monday morning a minister is being fired for something. It is because we had an attorney general who was fired for misbehavior in public office. the monies that were being paid out in legal fees. All of these different things is what contributed. When you had a government minister accused of forcing a woman to perform oral sex on him for an HDC house and she never get it. The woman came to him looking for help for herself and I think it's her uncle and her child. And she said on 2 occasions she was forced to perform oral sex on him. These are the things. The disgusting things is why they were voted out of office. The corruption, the $20 million plus or how much ever they spent on happiness campaign, all the money they were giving to Ernie Ross, all of those millions of dollars that they were spending, all of the kickbacks and all of these different things that we were hearing about. These are the reasons why after 3 years in office, they went from 11 corporations to 5. In 3 years, the population realized the significant mistake that they made. And from then, all the money they spent in Tobago, 12-0, whitewashing their backside. They lost Shogunas West to Jack Warner in the by-election. They lost the St. Joseph seat to Terence D'Alson in the by-election. All of these different things happened. Section 34 was just one of many things that the population simply couldn't take when they were giving away the lands in Chagaramas, giving away prime state lands in Chagaramas and citizens from across the spectrum. It wasn't just PNM, it's everybody. Some of their own UNC supporters and all came out and marched from Chagaramas to the waterfront where the parliament was then to tell them we are against you taking prime real estate in Chagaramas and giving it away to the so-called 1%. That you gave 35 acres of land to Mr. Abu to put up his water park and charge him $30-something $100 a month rent when it is that the evaluator said it should be $500,000 a month. When they took away the people's access to Shagville Beach. All of these are things. When they gave away the Chagaramas Convention Center, when they bulldozed the lands of the Guav Road farmers so that they could give Mr. Abu 4 acres of land to build a car park for his water park, which car park was then supposed to be leased to the Chagaramas Development Authority for $900,000 a month, while it is that Mr. Abu would only be paying $1 a year in rent for 30 years. These are the things, the reasons why the population voted them out. It was no Section 34. That was just one of a long list of transgressions that cost them office. And how have they made amends since then? How have they improved? They have not. And then they have it in the National Economic Transformation Plan, put them back, and they will continue what they started in Chagaramas. They're so bold-faced and disrespectful that they tell you, notwithstanding the fact that hundreds and maybe thousands of citizens marched from Chagaramas to complain about that, put us back in office, and we will do the same thing again. Talk about disrespect. But we're still talking about putting them back in office. But when they come back and they do it, and they start to give away the lands again, don't complain nothing about no 1% and 1%. Take that in all your backside because they won all here. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Good afternoon.
I'm saying you look so very relaxed after your vacation.
Thank you.
Do not do it like when stupid people. Make you lose your karma, joy.
Oh, yes.
We have a few left before Christmas accidents. They are what they are, and talking to a stupid person and trying to tell them things is frustrating yourself more than anything else. Too many people in that party, the United National Congress, prefer to be stupid. They don't want to correct the ills in their own party, right? And they're quite comfortable with the nastiness, misogyny, the racism, everything that's going on, they're quite happy with it, right? Because they see themselves in charge. I'm going to protect them. I will say it, I will sing it, that's Indian party, okay? They do not consider themselves in the own country. The People's National Movement like them, don't like them, that's your choice. Only national Dr. Eric Williams said, Peter, please. Well, please. He also said there was Mother India, Mother England, Mother Africa, there was Mother Trinidad and Tobago. If Trinidad and Tobago is my mother, I'm a Trinidadian, not an African. They, Indian people, by and large, consider themselves India because India is still their mother. Okay? And they keep pushing all things in there. Absolutely better to go back to India. Right? That is my take on it. If you are friend Ligonians, we are disagree with all this is bad. That is your right. Okay, you are firm that right because you live here, when you want. And when you can do that, you can then sit back and say, this is what is happening. I agree with this, I don't agree with it, this can be done better. This party, whoever it is offering me a solution to X. The only solution that the UNC is putting forward on all of your parties is the PDPNM. And I'm amazed that people were supposed to have some sort of common sense even support that. The PDPNM, and what does that do? They don't have a policy that can improve anything. All because they know that I was a Trinbagonian, like to take Auditor. What they're putting out is crime. I have stopped even watching the news because I for Christmas at least, so many things going on, and it's been going on all through the year. And the lead story and everything is crime.
Yep.
You know, I don't need that. Same and except for CTT. Everybody else is only giving you crime. There is no balance. There is nothing. Why waste time? 2025 is going to be a harsh year. Okay? And people need to choose wisely. Now, this is not what I call to talk about, but about taking care. And then I will leave. It's going to be a harsh year, so people need to decide what they want. CTT is showing you all the positives. Yes, we have negatives, but it's showing you Trinidad and Tobago is a place. People are working, all the things about property, what you want. Price Smart selling out. You know why the groceries are set? Because Price Smart selling food. They was almost doing to go to the grocery, but they could get it at Price Smart and people are lining up. All those big stores. But the poor. All right. CTT is doing human service. Remember what happened? TNM wasn't in office. Apparently, it was gutted. And when the PNM came back in 2000 to 2010, Mr. Manning had a lovely vision, right, of expanding CTT's range all into the Caribbean. We were going to be the Caribbean version of also CNN. That's the width, not necessarily what CNN was covering, but it would have been like that. Or they decided no, to put the People's Partnership last UNC, and it was gutted even more. PNM come back, they start to fix it again. They have to value Trinidad and Tobago being highlighted positively. PPP, you will out of vote. Because on there, every creed and race is finding an equal play. They highlighted everything, all the positives, right? And when they have to have the hard conversations, they also have any hard conversations. But they're showing you what we are able to do. All right? This gentleman who has when you have a police complaint authority, has been doing human too. And recently I was saying, you know, I need to highlight some of the things, what they have been doing, how they have improved. Because I'm sure in the unlikely event that Tabla and her thieves get back in, they're going to bash him because they haven't gotten over the fact that he did not support the the next one, who's now gone. Right? With the allegation. So the first one to go was the state. 2 weeks later, his instrument was extended for the next 5 years. Kamala jumped out and she was against it.
Yes.
The PCA is working. And we can see the effect. They are working upright and improving. And they're going to their business very fast. You send a complaint before. Everything is anonymous. All the system set up. Police was the polls, the things is Right? So you need to look at that and you want to make a decision in 2025. If you want the drunken person who does not work will have the position, but really, not the prime minister, that's the position. Anybody would send, and one could tell you between 2010 and 2015, she was collecting the prime minister's salary, but she wasn't really the prime minister.
Correct.
Right? Doing whatever. Okay? These are what you have to consider going into the new year. Look around, see all these people, if they're cutting about contract, on some process, and consider, because they want to agree. Come in, the tax is getting it done, the innovation that's taking place is going to be shut down. We will go back to 5 minutes. I recently told somebody at 30 minutes about the amount this government has at 30 minutes before. No, I said it. And many people's partnership, we had 30 ministry. And that's what I wasn't going mad because I go mad sometimes. So when everybody was eating their food, what was the outcome of those ministries? These are the things we have to look down now. The mature people in the city, not the babies, not the classless, vulgar people who are positioning themselves all over the place. They will never do it. If you do yourself, need to fix that themselves. Okay? All the people, Twin-Babonian. Consider yourself a Twin-Babonian. Okay? Not black, not Africa. Not Indian. If you're Indian, you're definitely consider yourself that. Definitely. I'm a care. I hear about party. Your leader said party before country or put ahead. Right? Good. I have no problem with that. The rest of the population who consider themselves go, they need to. You don't need to like Dr. Rowley. I don't need to like anybody else. I need to respect them. Right? And on that note, the level of disrespect so-called leaders have been putting up is really very interesting. Because if you can be so disrespectful to the head of state, and then you want to be the head, who's to talk to you? Who are you going to talk to? Keisha Davis. Whatever her name is. Right? Philip Alexander. Gary. Who are you really going to be talking to tell what? To bring what? What do you want to bring to the table? Nice for Gary people. Don't talk and these trade unionists. Who are you going to be seeking? So how is the money going to come in? What are your skill sets? Right? Vulgarity. What is your skill set to make the nation better? You all are actually contributing to the crime. Because you all are saying it's okay to be not ISIS. You know, that's all good. Thankfully, I think that the average Trinidadian will treat with you all as you deserve and get rid of you. Right? So that's my wish for 2025. I know Kamala is never going back. Every morning I will get up and say it aloud and put it out. When you put it out, it will happen. So I'm verbalizing that. I'm not saying it won't be a battle. But you know what? Battles only make you stronger. We have to show how we have matured despite this. I like that they're actually coming out. So you can see yourself, people here come with a plan so that countries that are might always agree on their approach. They're actually showing themselves with the vulgar piece of they are self-serving. And so let them continue. I just need to see how to move. Because people who I respected, I'm realizing, not so much. If you can take a death, forget that I heard about it in the morning. I was like, what? How can something like that happen? You actually don't expect it to happen to somebody at that level at least. And never made any sort of vital statement when somebody who was not a PNM supporter but in life and in public life passed away. There was a gentleman who accused PNM ministers. They resigned and went to step up, I should say, and went to have to fight them in court. And he had to dismiss and say, and he said it's not fair on for due program that he was lying. But he had some lawyer who loved access, who gave himself film. And they cut it one time. I was watching it twice. Let me see what happened. They cut it, and when they came out, the conversation had dead, and you can't find it anywhere because I went and checked it. Months ago, you can't find it. Right? And not a word that any purported PNM supporter made when they will accept his life condolences. Right? Basil Pandey passed away. I did not hear a nasty comment. There's a lot that could have been said. There's a lot that could have been said. But he was a head of state that passed, and he was given that respect. Right? It only comes from Twin Begonians. People who don't consider themselves Twin Begonians, they're all of the nasty. People who wish that they were somebody like this Alexander who tried to find himself for good. That is sacrifice. Right? They all sorts of nasty things. But it just shows you who they are. You have to ask yourself, do you want the face of Trinidad and Tobago? Right? So, I got a good Christmas. I'm going to keep relaxed. You know, your friend when I call him Dominic.
Yes. Look here, boy.
Continue to pray no matter what he says. Okay? We got a lovely place with the broad things around in Parliament with the thousands of grabbing a ball. When they start to think about that, just smile and let them go. They have the air, they're up somewhere. Okay? Let it float on by and float right back. Have a good day. Happy 2025.
Thank you. So true. Let me see. Mr. Chance, call me back. Apparently, Josoja have quite money talking about Dr. Rowley impregnate 17-year-old girl. How old was Gregory when he started dating Kamla? They got married at age 18 and they were together for 2 years prior to that. Josoja. Do your research. Gregory older than Kamla. So I guess for that 2 years that they were together, when she was 16 and he was 18, they were holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Eh? Yeah, that's what they were singing. They were holding hands and going to the botanic gardens and running around trees and singing songs for the 2 years that they were together. And they got married. They couldn't wait as soon as she turned 18 to get married. You know, they want to come with the nonsense. Just remember, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Mr. Chance. Hello?
Yes, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Greetings. I had a nice conversation with your colleague in Francois 2 days ago. Well.
Nice.
Nice. First of all, let me welcome you back. I mean, there was a short stay.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you always have fun there because people who go back to places, they do have fun.
That's right.
I know you have your own fun there. Let me take the opportunity, like Jenny, to extend the belated birthday greetings to you.
Thank
I see
you.
you're a big fanboy. I can't even stop the amount of people wishing you happy birthday, boy. You're real You're real connected to the people. That's a very good thing.
Yes.
So I want to join them and extend the belated birthday greetings to you. And I also want to join Jenny in her commendation to Mr. Rigrello. Because you see, and that's one of the things in Trinidad and Tobago. We sometimes have the soul of the nation. At this point in time, the steel pan instrument has become part of the soul of the nation. It cuts across all aspects, politics, everything. It is not regarded in the United Nations, but still we have some people
holding a pan stick for 30 hours. It's not an easy thing. As a young man, 12 years old, I myself played can of pan. You know, I grew up in the pan, so I understand how the jubilation and excitement of people who have been involved in the pan and the steel pan movement would feel about this. I want to congratulate Joshua, and I want to congratulate the Minister of Tourism for being there to share that world record-breaking event. Now, I want to be on the same track like Mr. Yes and Jenny this morning, you know. But I think we have to make sure that some people are jumping out and they're becoming what I call influencers, you know, and many of them have a rank. So we have to touch base with them. You know, I am going to touch base with them as a senior counsel, but I know their senior counsels are a little different as legal. Mine is by age, you know. I'm a senior citizen, okay? But the people I'm going to talk about now have senior counsel because of their legal accomplishments. The one in particular is doubtful, but they still have SC behind their name. I'm going to start with Ms. Kabla Prasad Bisesa. Madam, quite recently I heard you refer to the Prime Minister as old and lazy, madam. Now, the word lazy caught me, because I know sometimes you can make a little mistake with food, but lazy, madam? Madam, let me ask you some question, madam. Have you ever participated in one day in 7 meetings at the same time, madam? That's the evidence of a lazy man, madam. When the Prime Minister went to seek the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to make sure that we have a bright future, to treat with matters pertaining to the energy sector, it is reported that he had 7 meetings in the day, madam. Madam, have you ever demonstrated that type of ability, madam? Would you describe it as lazy, madam? Madam, let me ask you another question. I've had the pleasure of being involved in sport at a pretty high level. And I want to let you know, if you don't know, a man who has to cover in an 8-year-old course 5 miles, you know that, madam? Dr. Rowley's hobby is golfing, but in an 18-hole course, there's about 5 miles to cover. And it's not flat territory, madam. That's not lazy man, madam. Gets up in the morning and gets involved in golf like that, madam? Is that the evidence of a lazy man, madam? You see, that is why I'm asking you these questions, madam. Madam, are you comfortable? I've noticed you from time to time. Are you comfortable when you get out of your car, walk into the parliament, madam? Is that an example of somebody who is energetic, madam? These are some of the questions I have to ask you, madam. Yeah? Did you, as a member of parliament, madam, in terms of your action, you know, are you comfortable, madam, attending morning events? I heard one of your members of parliament spoke about that you have some discomfort attending morning events, madam. And certainly your record of attendance at parliament is evidence of that, madam. When it comes to Dr. Rowley, on the other hand, madam, he's there, he's heading the energy committee, madam. So I just thought I would draw that to your attention with your comments about being lazy, right? Let me come quickly as I close onto the other senior counsel, Israel Khan. So I want to ask him some questions too, but I'll be a little more expanded on tomorrow. Please go when I spoke on the other program, but no time is tight. So I want to tell Mr. Khan, senior counsel, I see you jump out your whole self with a personal, vicious, nasty attack at the Prime Minister. Let me tell you again, I see you jump out your whole self, you know. So I'm asking you, madam, sir, is that commentary, is that coming from an emotional rant, sir? Is that just an emotional rant, sir? Yeah? Could you be described, sir, as a loose cannon, sir? Yeah? Just coming out like that? Are you sure that you are emotionally stable, sir? I know you are 75 years of age, you know, and so I'm asking these questions because when I look at that rant, I want to know where it's coming from, sir. And there are some comments in the rant that I have to pay attention to, right? I have to pay attention to those things. But before I do so, let me ask you, sir, are you still considering, you know, looking for the position of Office of President, sir? I am sure, I hope that when Mrs. Bisesa recommended you, that you gave your approval. Are you still thinking that way, sir? Do you think that kind of conduct, that type of rant, is appropriate for the office of president, sir? Are you still practicing? Are you still vying for it, sir? Oh, let me ask you another question, sir. Are you trying to show the opposition leader, if she ever gets back into government, that you're ready to take the office of president, sir? You're practicing, sir? You're showing off yourself, your whole self, sir? These are questions I'm asking you, know. I'm not making a categorical statement. I'm asking questions because I know you're an attorney at law. You're a top-class attorney at law. So I have to ask these questions about you. And when I come to the matter of house slave, that touched me to the bone, sir. House slave living in a master house, sir. You know house slave matter? It touches me all the time. When the Chief Secretary in Tobago said it, when Kamala Pasal's sister spoke about our ancestors, that touched me. You know why, matter? You know, right, sir? I'm from the African people. Slavery is part of what has happened to us. It is not an easy thing. It's not something you could sit around and talk about house slave and master house, just so. You can't do that just so. So like another caller, I want to ask you, sir, are you a Dalit? You see, just as how you asking, is the house slave, we can ask you, because this is a democracy, sir. And of course, the last time I checked, with respect to Reporters Without Borders, our position with respect to media is very good. We are number 25 out of 180 countries. Democracy is alive and well, and that is why you have the democratic right to question the Prime Minister. But I think when you get to house slave and things like that, you're going a little bit extended, sir. I have no problem with you criticizing the Prime Minister, not supporting him at all. That is your democratic right. But there are some extensions you put into it, like house slave living in a master house. So I want to ask you, sir, before I close, if you get a position of president, you're not going to live in a master house, sir? Are you not going to live in a master house, sir? That's an important question because you see, you were recommended, and I'm sure it is your approval. It is your approval. So let me close there because I think I know the time is tight and so on. Let me close by asking you, sir, I am reminded by a very good friend of mine who told me that, listen, when you came back from Canada as a young, up-and-coming attorney at law, sir, I'm talking about all slave, and that refers to a particular race, the people, African people, sir. Where did you get your military then? Development, the legal skills? You may have got it several places, you know, but you were in a particular chamber, sir. And the leader of that chamber was somebody who you would describe, sir, as a house slave, sir, living in a master house. So he was of African descent, sir. How does that line up with your expression and description of Dr. Rowley as a house slave living in a master house, sir? I just thought, as a senior counsel by age, I would ask the senior counsel by legal authority those two questions. And I hope, sir, that you will respond to them. Thank you very kindly, and my listeners, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thank you, sir. So I'm looking at YouTube and I'm seeing again. If you know about Indian culture in those days, you cannot go to bed with a man before you get married. So you were the Lukani, is that what they call it? Just Odra, you were Lukani for Kamala and Gregory? Really? That may have been East Indian culture. But I don't say that is what happened. Just saying that. Just remember when Satmaraj and they vehemently fought against increasing the minimum age for marriage to 18, right? They wanted to maintain it at 12. How old was Sat when he got married to his wife? So I don't know if you were playing chaperone for Kamala and Gregory for them 2 years so that you could tell us, well, yes, they were traditional East Indians, and really, miss us with that, Jasodra. That might have been Indian culture then. I'm pretty sure you can't talk for the two of them, right? Because they couldn't wait to get married at age 18. All right? And this thing about the previous caller where he's telling her not to talk about Pandey because of him, we could buy vehicles. Well, I guess vehicles. I don't know what is Vasilis. I guess it's vehicles you mean. Let me tell you something. I guess see this nonsense you all seem to have, and I don't know what the earlier you're talking about is because you perceive that the woman is of African descent. To say that persons of African descent could buy vehicle because of Pandey. I drive a high-end vehicle and had nothing to do with Basdeo Pandey. Okay? I'll tell you that. I know plenty of people. These days, they're not really looking for no foreign use vehicle. This is why over the last couple of weeks, if you had gone to many a Massey showroom, the only vehicles that they had no available vehicles there. In fact, Massey showroom on Chagrit Road, at the corner of Chagrit Road and by Donald Street there, empty. Not a vehicle, even the showroom vehicles and all they had to sell. Because that is where people are gravitating to now. Because many of the finance houses today are making it very easy for persons to be able to afford these vehicles. Okay? So I just throw that out there for you. So let's talk about this because of Pandey, people can drive vehicles and all of this thing about foreign use and so on. He made Trinidad and Tobago a dumping ground for vehicles that they didn't want anymore in Asia. That's what he did. So this thing to be boasting about is because of Pandey. So what? Persons of East Indian descent were still buying brand new vehicles. So nobody of East Indian descent purchased foreign use vehicles. Really? Come on now, man. I can't be serious. Why do you all still coming up with this nonsense? You see, this is the problem, you know. Supporters of the UNC always and this is why you all continue to lose the election. And you all always come with all kind of dotishness, all kind of ridiculous excuses and reasons why it is with the PNM thief and EBC thief and they gerrymander the election. The reason why you all continue to lose is because supporters of the United National Congress continue to paint this picture as if persons of African descent suffering. And that persons of African descent can't run business. And it's only the East Indian community and the Syrian Lebanese community can run business and have businesses. And Philip Alexander talked that dotish talk a few months ago, that persons of African descent in this country, the only purpose they serve is to be consumers and laborers. But when it comes to businesses, forget that, they don't own business. Talking that stupid talk, but ask him, where is the evidence to support that? I have made the point before. $441 million was spent for the Red House renovation. And you had 5 companies that are owned by persons of African descent got over $125 million of that 441. And that is what I can confirm based on me doing my research. But I am certain that there were others who would have shared in that $125 million. The largest single contract on that project was $60-something million for electrical, which went to a company that is owned by someone of African descent. But you all always like to paint this picture and make it seem as if persons of African descent, they're suffering and they're so hard and they can't run business and all they could do is play pan and all of that dotish. And this is the reason why the UNC continues to lose the election. When you all lost in 2015, and coming on social media with this nasty talk about put feces in the doubles for persons of African descent and telling East Indian business owners, jack up your price and charge persons of African descent higher prices than everybody else. Because you all were upset that you lost the election and figure it's always talking about ways because of race, and race is why you all lost in 2015. It had nothing to do with race. Because some of the same people who voted against the People's Partnership in 2015 voted for the partnership in 2010, and they didn't care that the leader of the partnership was a woman of East Indian descent. They did not care. So when it says you're coming with that dotish talk, so all of a sudden it's after the election, the eyes open, the scales were removed, and they realized, but wait now, Kamala is an East Indian. We voted for an East Indian. Well, now we had to wait come 2015, we had to change that. You all realize how foolish you sound when you talk that dotishness? Constituencies like Arima, Dabadi Omera, Lupino Bonnet West, traditional PNM seats. You all could not have won those seats without the support of PNM voters. But and in those constituencies who are predominantly of African descent, you could not have. So you got into office in 2010 because of the same vote, and now you all like to talk this dotish talk is because of race, and they choose race, and they choose race. It has nothing to do with race. If Rohan Sinanan were to become the leader of the PNM, tomorrow, I would still vote for PNM. It matters not to me. If Terence Day Alsing were to become the leader of the PNM, we would still vote for him. It does not matter. Stuart Young, because we couldn't care about the race of the leader. You all are the ones who keep pushing this dotage toward PNM and African Party and persons of African descent only supposed to support an African leader. I keep saying, of what race was George Chambers? Certainly was no African. Pretty sure that. Right? And when you look at Eric Williams, the texture of his hair, certainly he was no pure African either. So I don't know where you all come with this dotage talk about the PNM and African Party and African Party. We don't see those things. That matters not. It is about an issue of governance. Yes, this administration has had challenges, and a lot of challenges when it comes to the issue of crime. But you see, the reason why is because you're not seeing the government giving out a set of box train contracts, as the People's Partnership was often want to do. So buy out the criminals, get them to keep quiet. Let me feed them now. Get them box train contract and get them contract to pave road and get them contracts for all them little things. You know? But even that resulted in crime. And in Dabadi-Omera, the constituency of Dabadi-Omera, as the late MP would have mentioned in one of her recent speeches prior to her passing, that to date, Dabadi-Omera is still suffering from the stigma, the stench of Anil Roberts and the things that he encouraged. Over 76 murders took place in the constituency of Dabadi-Omera while for the 4 years that Anil Roberts was minister and the MP for Dabadi-Omera. Why? Because they want to be giving out box train contracts and feeding the criminal element. All of that they encouraged. Karapo became a virtual murder town. Persons who were telling in Evergreen behind the racetrack and so on who lost their homes because certain religious sects came and putting people out of their house, and when they go to the police tell them, what? That make no sense. We intervene because we'll come and put them out, and then as soon as we go, they will come back and put you back out. So it's better you can just move on, find a new place, a new house or something like that. After people work hard, take loans and so on, and chirrup. The same way Kamala says she and her husband built their house, chirrup. Over a 10-year period, people work hard and build their houses in the same way, but at least in their case, it was genuine. And then to have people come who were enabled by this man and his folly and the party that he supported to be able to come and flex their muscle and take people's homes from them. You ever hear them talk about that? What interventions have they made to help these people when they cause that nonsense? And you all expect people to come back and vote for you for that. But these are the things all they don't talk about. You all don't talk about them things. Talking about when the PNM come in power, it does have the most crime. When the UN, let me tell you something, just Odra. White collar crime is crime too. You see, when you're thieving public monies, and that is something that always is prevalent when the UNC is in power. The most amount of politicians in this country that ever went before the courthouse came from the House of the Rising Sun, not the PNM. From Pandey, come forward. Even Pandey, Prime Minister, the only Prime Minister in this country to go before a courthouse, came from the UNC. The only former Attorney General came from the UNC. Government ministers. Brian Quaitong was good in the PNM. As soon as the PNM lost in 95 and he gone across to the UNC, he ended up in before the courthouse. Russell Huggins, Minister of National Security under Mr. Manning, 91 to 95. Good, you know. As soon as they lost and he gone across to the UNC, he ended up before the courthouse. All of these people, Dhanraj Singh, before the courthouse for murder, right, for slapping a police officer. You had former Senator General Ramdeen himself before the courthouse and still under police investigation for prison gate. Anand Ram Logan, all of these people, David Lee, before the courts on $1 million bail for fraud and misbehavior in public office. You have the Member of Parliament for Kuva North under police investigation for human trafficking and prostitution. Take that. So when you want to talk nonsense about this, only when PNM in power, the crime is go up. The most amount of white-collar crime in high office in this country takes place when the UNC is in office. The most amount of politicians in this country ever arrested and brought before the courthouse came from the House of the Rising Sun. That is all their legacy. Own that. And nothing you could do or say could change that fact. The most amount of corruption. Well, I like to accuse the PNM of all kind of corruption. And when you want to talk about PNM corruption, I have to go back 5 decades, 1970s and 1960s, to talk about O'Halloran and Privat. But that's called it to talk about Modern times, last 5 years, 10 years, only a set of propaganda and lies and conjecture, nothing of substance. Nothing. We don't need to go back that far. We could just go back 2010 to 2015. But we could go back to 95 to 2001 as well. Right? Man getting found with contraband in the water tank and all kind of chopping and all kind of dotishness. But you all will never own up to that. When it comes to white collar crime, UNC, that's all they own. That's all they own. Yeah, you can talk about murders go up and all this kind of thing. You know why? Because the PNM is not about feeding the criminal element, which is what the UNC does. That's what they do. PNM not doing that. They're not going to pay criminals not to commit crime. But you all like to accuse the PNM of that nonsense, though. Really? Miss me with that BS. How much UNC in jail after 9 years? How many PNM, or let's say any PNM in power for 60-something years, how many PNM ever went to jail? The government is not responsible for jailing anybody. That is what the court is there for. The police has to do investigation, and the court has to deliberate on the matter and send people. The government can't send nobody to jail. In 2010, just Soja, when they tell us about call the heart thief, and every Monday morning is call the heart thief, billions, call the heart do this. All the billions of dollars, all they tell us call the heart thief. You all came into office from 2010 to 2015. Call the heart ever talk to the police? All the billions that your party, just Soja, told us call the heart stole. Well, they put up big billboard all over the highway spending money, but call the heart next to a pile of $100 bills here and Patrick Manning and telling us about call the heart. We couldn't hear the end of call that. Timothy Hamill-Smith and Vernon Dilemma went all the way to Malaysia to get documents to show that call the heart brother-in-law was a director on the board of Sunway, which was getting a set of government contracts to build stuff. All the thief, all they say thief. You all came into office. When it is the media ask Anand Ram Logan, so what about call the heart? When all they plan to go after him? You know, Ram Logan said, we know where Mr. Hart is, and when we're ready for him, we know where to find him. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they were never ready for him. Call the heart never even put on a silver bracelet belonging to the police. The police never even went by Call the Heart house. The only person who went to try and perform a citizen arrest was Ishmael Samad, went with sledgehammer, see breaking down Call the Heart gate. He come to perform citizen's arrest. What going on with Call the Heart? All they went after Malcolm Jones. Or let's say Malcolm Jones thief money and how much, but we never heard about Malcolm Jones in 2009. We didn't hear nothing about Malcolm Jones in 2010. Malcolm Jones didn't feature on the election campaign. It was only Call the Heart, Call the Heart. All the billions, but they didn't go after him for the billions they say he thief. If it is you couldn't lock him up, well then why didn't sue him the same way you tried to sue Malcolm Jones? Why they didn't sue Call the Heart to get back the billions? Or they let him go free. And let's say because he thief billions? To date, where is Call the Heart today? Where is he? UNC not interested in him, but all they went after Ken Julian and Wendy Fitzwilliam and them E-Tech board for 35 million TT. But all they leave Call the Heart to work with billions. And we supposed to support that? That is part of the reason why it is only lost office. That's why. Nonsense. Folly. What's that? How let us say Kamala lock up 9,000 African men? So she didn't do that. She didn't do that. Well, if that's not true, talk to Paul Richards. It's on Hansard. Does Paul Richards quote them figures too? State of emergency, 2011 was it? Then Minister of National Security John Stanley stood up in the parliament and say that the government has information that something was about to happen that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party. Right? Something, they had information. Not one man get charged. Not a bullet found, not a gun found, not a grenade, nothing. But all they had intelligence that something going to happen that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party. That was the pretext for the state of emergency, which ended up being nothing more than a failed strategy and a failed attempt to stop, to deal with the crime situation. Because murders was out of hand. The same crime that all said is only go up under PNM, and that is the trick that they pull on the population and go on in East Port of Spain and locking up a set of men, throwing them in the back of the van. Right? Ian Allen was there, and he was asking the late Inspector Singh, Inspector Singh, where's that one? Men dwelling, Inspector Singh, where's that one? By now come from work, Inspector Singh, me do nothing, where's that one, Inspector Singh? And he just jump in the van, go in the van. So much so that they had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy a whole warehouse up in Arima, up in Santa Rosa, to house, because they didn't have enough space to house all the African men, at-risk youth that they were locking up in East Port of Spain. Some of these men came from, they did now come from a honest day's work, you know. But all they take them and throw them in the back of the Maria and carry them, lock them up. When it is, Anand Ram Logan was interviewed the night on TV6 News, and Dominic Kalipasad asked him, he said, jail and make the right fig. And the infamous statement, lock them up and we're going to get the evidence later. How many of these young men, their reputations were tarnished, they lost their jobs because they were wrongly arrested, right? How much of the crime that took place after that is as a result of this foolishness because they couldn't get jobs, lost their work, and the employer looking for them the next day, they sit down in a prison cell. We're going to tell them after you let them out for a week or 2 weeks after, we're going to tell the employer, the boss, you know, they locked me up, you know, but they did wrongful arrest. The employer want to hear that? No, we don't replace you a long time, pal. See how you could fight up. But all they wouldn't talk about that. Right, Chris? All they wouldn't talk about that. Even the UNC and all admitted to that, how many thousands of young African men they lock up, supposedly because of this event that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party was supposed to take place. Never happened. We're still waiting. Still waiting for that. Where is John Sandy? They remove him as Minister of National Security and send him as the ambassador to Geneva. And spend millions of dollars, $27 million to renovate the ambassador's residence in Geneva. So they put in smart kitchen, smart toilet, everything, double kitchen, double this, double that. Well, they're not ready. We don't forget these things, you know. Or they might forget it conveniently. But you know what? All of that in the Auditor General's report. No tender. They say, get 3 quotes. We're going to renovate the ambassador's residence in Geneva. Get 3 quotes first. Now forget tender. Just ask any 3 contractors for 3 quotes, because you know we had the 3 quote system. But we know we're going to give it to one man. And they get 3 quotes, $27 million. The Auditor General spoke about that in the Auditor General's report. I think it's 2013 or 2014. But they don't know about prior to 2024. Or they didn't know about Auditor General's report. The how much guns, the 70-something guns that they paid over $300 and something thousand for the Prayer Larceny squad. The guns never came, but money spent. Right? Guns never came into the country, but money paid in full. But Kamala come to talk a few months ago about the Ministry of Trade spent 20-something thousand US to buy some scanners or something like that, and it didn't come, and the company was defunct or the company didn't exist or something. So, well, they make a whole issue, a whole hullabaloo about that. But the $300 and something thousand that was spent for the guns for the Prayer Larceny squad that never came to the country, we're not interested in that. Or they talk about 100 million in drilling, Rowley partner thief 100 million in fake oil, but $800 million in houses, ghost houses, cannot be found. Right? The auditors, independent auditors, went looking high and low, searching the country to find this $800 million in houses that were supposed to be built while Munilal was Minister of Housing. Up to this day, they can't find the house and they can't find the money. But people like Chris and Jasodra ain't talking about that. They're not calling on Munilal and Kamala Prasad Bisasa to answer where that $800 million in housing went. Or at least we can't find the money. Tell us where we could find a house, one house. They're asking for that. But we'll come to talk about 100 million and how much money thief and 3 billion missing and 3 billion missing. But 800 million. Camille Robinson Regis raised it in the parliament in the presence of Munilal and Kamala. Up to now, neither one of them has had one word to say on that. They pretend as if that didn't happen. Where is the media to follow up on that and to inquire? The media ever asked Munilal for a comment? Munilal is not a man to stay quiet when he's accused of wrongdoing. Up to now, he has not said a word on that. Jolene John has not said one word on that. $800 million in housing missing, money missing, housing missing. But Chris and Jasodra had nothing to say about that. Winston Bachelor had nothing to say about that. They're not interested in the recovery of that money, but accusing this government. That is crime, Jasodra. That is theft of the highest. At least we know we have an explanation for the 2.6 billion. We're waiting to hear if Jaiwanti met with the central bank to inquire into the electronic check cashing system, which is blamed for the understatement of the revenue. Why you're not calling on Jaiwanti to come out and say if she met with the central bank? The first request she made, she said she was denied, and that was critical for her to inquire into the explanation given. If it was so important, has she met yet 3 months later after she said they agreed to a meeting? Help us out with that, Chris Jasodra and Chris. Help us with that now. Help us with that. You see, and this is all your problem. You're coming to talk nonsense about Las Alturas. The government that you support, the party that you support, had a whole inquiry into Las Alturas. A whole commission of inquiry took place into Las Alturas. So if you want to talk about Las Alturas, talk about that. Anybody was charged? Was there any wrongdoing found on the part of Dr. Rowley? Anybody else with respect to Las Alturas? All the millions that were spent on that commission of inquiry? I'm going to ask you, since you want to talk about Las Alturas, we can talk about that. Where is the report? There had a public commission of inquiry into that. How many years ago was that? That's more than 10 years now. Dr. Rowley was ever accused of any wrongdoing in that? No. So this is all your problem. Rather than deal with the wrongdoing, it's always tit for tat. Yeah, well, all right, let me talk about this. Let us deal with that. Deal with that. But you all always, we don't want to talk about that. Let me bring up something else that they are PNM accused of. Play the tit for tat game. Right? That is the foolishness. And that is why we cannot prosper as a country. Because rather than you all hold your party to book for wrongdoing, it's always, let me see what the PNM do. Let me don't talk about the wrongdoing. So we're not interested in $800 million. But if it was the PNM was accused of that, they wouldn't stop talk that. Years later, they're still talking about AV drilling and AV drilling nonsense. The fact that was dealt with, right? It was dealt with. But always come in with this stupidness, can't deal with the fact that your party engaged in wrongdoing. That is why we would not support them. Because if they come back in office, upholders like Olia will continue to support. And when they do stupidness and wrongdoing, rather than deal with that and hold them to account, yeah, but the PNM do this and the PNM do that. So it's okay. Give them a pass because the PNM do and the PNM do. Whether it's the PNM, the UNC or whoever, anybody who do wrong, they need to account for it. And if the PNM did any wrongdoing, whoever is responsible, whether it's the Prime Minister or whoever, let them face the law like everybody else. Because the people didn't put you there to thief and to fatten your pockets and self-aggrandizement. They put you there to represent the interest of the citizenry. And it could be who? If they thief, lock them up. When it is PNM, name their call up and wrongdo, we don't make excuses. The PNM didn't shy away from Satan. Yes, or holler and thief, or whatever it is that you do. We don't try to hide that and try to make false equivalencies. Marlene McDonald was accused of wrongdoing, and we said, let the chips fall where they may. We didn't accuse the police of politicking and all kind of nonsense when it is that Marlene McDonald was charged. We said if she did wrongdoing, we don't know. But if she did, let the chips fall where they may. But the fact is that we've had 10 years. And how many ministers over the last 10 years in this administration has been accused of being Bagamoni minister and taking kickback and all of that? That was the order of the day from 2010 to 15. Every Monday morning, a minister being accused of taking kickback and bribe and thief. We were hearing about who have safe in hole in the ground and who have money in pigtail bucket in the backyard and all kind of thing. You all have never heard of that taking place in the last 10 years. But in less than 5 years under the People's Partnership, as early as the first year, we were hearing that. That is why Makandal Daga was saying, in all of my 50, 60 years, I have never seen so much corruption in all my life as I've seen in the last few months. And he wasn't talking about the PNM. He was talking about the People's Partnership, of which he was a part. He was ambassador to CARICOM. And he said that about the People's Partnership. Somebody who was in the belly of the beast, he wasn't talking about PNM. He said in all his 50, 60 years, people thieving money like they invented it, like they have a right to thief. Such as, you hear them accusing any government minister in this, because you know why? These government ministers know about their life. That is why the other day, Young Hippolyte died a pauper. Had to be fundraising to fund medical treatment. Because you know why? Them kind of thieving that has been taking place. He didn't have no such money. Or they like to accuse PNM of thieving and whatnot. Some of these ministers, I've seen some of them driving the same car for the last 5 years. But look at on the UNC side, it's different though. That's why David Lee is where he is today. That's why he is where he is. That's why when Dr. Rowley came in, he made the point to the minister. He said, here what? I'll tell you. Yes, you're entitled to a perk. You could buy a vehicle, a nice high-end vehicle, and you're getting certain write-offs. You know how to pay VAT and motor vehicle tax and all kind of thing. but you're also entitled to a low interest loan from the parliament. He said, don't take no loan from the parliament to buy no car. Do not touch the people's money, even though it's an entitlement, to take no low interest loan to buy no car. Go and face the bank, you're earning a decent salary, take your loan in the bank, right? And pay whatever interest rate the bank charging and and use the bank money to buy car. Don't come and tie up the public monies to buy no car. Dr. Rowley said that publicly. Yes, you can access the perks. Not when it comes to borrowing the money. Go in the bank. Forget parliament. Kamala told her people that? No. We're entitled to take low interest loans from the parliament and we will avail ourselves of it. And boy, oh boy, did they avail themselves of it. Same thing Dr. Rowley told them when all they had to travel, forget the first class. Traveling economy like everybody else. All that, he said it publicly to his ministers. Publicly. No, take the public monies to play all they're going and fly high. Forget that. Traveling economy. What the hell? When all you go in the groceries, the same grocery you're going with everybody else. When you go in the gas station, the same one. So why you can't travel with everybody else on the same economy and the same flight? Dr. Rowley told his ministers that. Kamala told her ministers that. No. And she was too good to travel in business class. What she do? Jumbo jet. Whole jumbo jet. Every time she had to fly far, she want a whole jumbo jet. She can't sit down in business class for no long set of hours. She ain't going through that. She know about her life. Can't drive. She allergic to traffic. She need helicopter from Queen's Park, Savannah to the Pink Palace. How many millions it costs you, the taxpayers? But people like Chris and Just would try to talk about that. They wouldn't talk about that, but they want to tell you, well, 50 million they put aside for entertainment for Rowley. How much money Kamala spent on that big branch she threw in the diplomatic center for the so-called 1%, the Syrian Lebanese community? Dr. Rowley do that? Prime Minister for almost 10 years. You ever see he throw any kind of party? Most of the times when you see they have any event at the Prime Minister's residence, how many 1%ers you see inside it? How many Syrian Lebanese you see on the guest list? Miss me with all your nonsense. Rubbish. Folks, it is, what's the time? 2:15. Thank you all for joining me today. It's always a pleasure. Yes, I am back. I don't anticipate doing any travels until probably after Carnival, because you know I have my involvement with Carnival, which is going to prevent me from traveling. But rest assured, if the opportunity presents itself and I have even the smallest window, I will be on a plane. Okay? Life is to be enjoyed. So, thank you. You know, sometimes I feel I need to go back after I come off here and read some of these comments on YouTube. And really, they will never give Dr. Rowley credit for some of these things that he has done. I was listening to a clip this morning. I think it was a CNN clip where they were talking to a Democratic congresswoman, and she was making the point. She said Joe Biden was a fantastic president, and his administration did a lot of good work. She said the problem and the reason why they lost the election is because the government didn't do enough to tell the people what they did and to show the people how what they did benefited them. Because they figured they're doing things and people will know. And the people didn't know. Because they were tuned in more into the propaganda and the old talk and the lies of the Republicans. And so they heard Donald Trump talking about the things that mattered to them when they didn't know that, in fact, Joe Biden was doing things to help them. So that when it is you had the Republicans who were dead set against debt forgiveness, student loans, people who took out loans to go to school, finish school, and 10 years later, 15 years later, they're still paying their student loan, taking out a chunk of their salary every month. And the Biden administration took a decision to wipe out those debts, to clear off those debts. And you had Republicans who complaining, oh, there's a set of freeloaders, and they spend their money, and they went to, and they pay off their loans. Okay, yeah, the Trump administration didn't do that for you. But don't be vexed now if another administration came in and decided to help millions of Americans who were struggling with student debt and student loans that was affecting their cost of living, that we can't change the prices of the goods in the supermarket. But maybe we could free up some money so people could afford these things by providing them with a little bit more disposable income, by paying off a chunk of something that is taking up a lot of the monthly income. These are the little things. But of course, the government wasn't telling the people and telling the people enough. So all they were hearing is a man promising, yes, food prices high. What do you know about that? What do you know about that? He grew up rich. He don't know what it is to struggle. But you come and promise and it's sweet in the ears. Yeah, you come on. Then now you're singing a different tune after you win. But we'll see how that goes. But just a word to the wise to the current administration in Trinidad and Tobago. You see all the work that you're all doing, and not enough is being done to let the people know what it is that you're all doing, and you're assuming and people will know. You need to get rid of that assumption, all right? Because people don't know. People who live in the East and the West don't know what it is you're all doing in South. And likewise, the people who live in South don't know the work that you're all doing in the East and the West and the North, because they ain't coming up there to see it. And if it is that the apparatus of the government and the state is not being used to let people know what is being done, I went to Parliament a couple of days ago with my family, and for the last how many years I've been going there, and every year they're complaining about the water problem and the shortage, and they get water every 2 weeks and whatnot. And they say, talk to your boy Marvin now. And I said, well, I didn't know it's a struggle. All going, I had to have a word with Marvin. Marvin put a booster station at the bottom of the hill, down by not too far from where you take the Jeep to go up to Parliament. When I went up there a couple of days ago and I talked to my sister, I said, how the water situation now? She said it is much better. Much better. She said since that booster station has been operationalized, she said sometimes water come out even now. No problems. Water busting pipe in Parliament now. Busting pipe. Happy. No issues for water. I had to ask her. Right? I had to ask her. That should have been highlighted. There should be some program where you see and they go up to Parliament and they talk to the residents and get feedback from them and show the population what is happening. Everywhere that these booster stations have been erected, persons are telling you the water situation has been improved. But you will always have the naysayers and the liars and the propagandists who want to come and tell you about water and people suffering for water. Yes, I'm not saying that there are still areas in the country, but then Kamala said 74% of the population when she left was receiving water 24/7. And then you have areas of people telling you we never had no water. Then people buying that nonsense. But everywhere, how many booster stations have been in? Imagine that you have the UNC opposed because the government spent $9 million to put in a booster station to benefit 300 people in our village. $9 million is so much money they spend for just 300 people to benefit. Well, I'm sure those 300 people are very happy that today the water situation has improved. When Kamala lied last year, that's why they lost Lengua Indian Walk. Because the minister went down there and he promised the people this nonsense of having to pay for truck-borne water for how many years when you're living in an area that is controlled by the Kuba Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation. And they have trucks. People paying $300 a week or twice a week or whatever it is to get water. And the minister came and he promised them 30 days, I'll have this problem fixed. He did it in 21 days. 21 days, people were getting water, busting pipe. But yeah, the leader of the opposition want to stand up on a platform and say, yeah, they went and they ran pipe and so on, but they mama guy the people and the people still ain't getting water. What the people did, they took the initiative to call CNC3 and tell them, come and see for yourself. We don't know where she get that from, but we have water in our pipe and we want to thank the minister that he promised us and he delivered in less time than he said he would have. Today, they're enjoying proper supply of water. But despite the fact that she want to play politics and lie, and her own supporters decided enough is enough. We ain't playing the politics thing. The man promised, he came himself, he made a promise to us, and he delivered on the promise, and we have water. Stop lying. People like Chris and just so trying to talk about that. That's why he always lose election. Right? Because there are some of us in the country who fed up by the lies and the propaganda. And if that is what you all depending on to get back into office come 2025, think again. Folks, we will chat again on Tuesday morning, 6:30. I'll get back in the groove again up really. Last few days of late week was nice, but the work has to be done. So Denise Cummings, thank you so much. Kurt Douglas, Brenda Smart. Brenda, she does nothing for her community other than complain, as you said. Right? They're talking about the situation with Lisa and the response of the fire services and we didn't have water and Marvin said it had water, anything had water. They get one or two people to come and claim they live in a Rima therefore and they were friends with Lisa and the water pressure and whatnot and all of this kind of thing. Right? But last year, never forget a mother and daughter died in a house fire in Kamla's constituency. Did she visit the home? Did she visit the family? Did she go and cry out? They complaining about, oh, Camille, all the people who get murdered, why Camille holding she belly and ball? And why she holding she belly and ball for all the other people who die in fire? How come it's only for Lisa? Did Kamala even show her face? Did she offer condolences to the family? Did she go to the funeral or anything like that? No. But what you do expect for her, you expect for Dr. Keith Rowley and members of his government, right? As the foolishness that they're on. Set of hypocrites. Priscilla, thank you so much. Yeah. Priscilla, is always my problem whenever I get a cold. This cough lingers. I was extremely cold in Washington. Extremely cold. And New York was even worse. Cheese and ages. I don't know how people could live in New York, you know. But New York will never see me in December again. May, June, July, yeah. December, forget that. I was able to see to experience a white Christmas. Once is enough. Well, I saw snowfall 3 times while I was there. That's enough to last me a lifetime. I don't need to see anymore. Oh, gosh, boy. But I don't know, some of them people who live in there, good for years. Not me. Wearing gloves, 2 sets of jacket, and I'm still freezing my tail off. Anan says I'm flying too much as a poor hungry tradie. So true, Anan. Yeah. Apparently, American Airlines giving away free plane tickets. That's probably how I'm able to travel. Huh? Okay. As they said, it's cold for days. No, it was really cold. In fact, when I got to New York, the hotel I was in, the first night, it was terrible. It was so cold. I was freezing. Even with the heat in the room, it was just terrible. Yeah. That's a good place to visit. But to live, I can't do it. No, sir. Brenda says sleeping in socks at Mavic. Yes, Brenda, that was the first time I ever sleep in socks. It was so bad I had to sleep in socks. The cold was too much. And you're walking outside, you have on gloves on your hands. I couldn't even feel my hands. So that kind of limited the amount of moving around that I did in New York. Yeah, but it was just terrible. Thank goodness this was my fifth visit to New York, so I've already seen most of the attractions that people would see in New York. So it was okay the couple of days that I stayed inside. When I did come outside, it was just for like a little hour. I went to Radio City to see the Rockets, which was a really nice show. Things like that, Madame Tussauds and stuff. And yeah. But as I said, New York will not see me in December again. The only thing I had experienced is a ball drop, but nah, forget that. It's okay, I'll watch it on TV. Folks, we'll chat on Tuesday. Karen says it's spring weather in New York City today. Lucky you all, Karen. I walked from the hotel to my hotel was on 43rd Street down to Central Park, which was on 50-something Street. And that walk was torture. But it was worth it when I finally got to Central Park. Yeah, so. Leon says after the beach, lovely weather in Toko. Leon, one of these days, one of these Sundays, I feel like I come up Toko. So I'll let you know, I'll pass by here for lunch. Yeah. Althea says Tuesdays her birthday, bring gifts. All right, so birthday greetings in advance, Althea. So if I forget on Tuesday morning, remind me please so that we can extend birthday greetings to you. 29 Super C says that will not be in early January. Yes, so folks, Tuesday it is. God's willing, we will chat again. 6:30, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and then to talk about. I have a lot of other stuff that happened that I haven't touched on yet. We will do so on Tuesday. All right, so take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm seeing on my side the rain is down, so we'll need to send some of that Toko weather down on this side. Yeah, so keep safe on the black carpet, folks, and because we all want to make it into 2025. Yeah, so enjoy the rest of your day.